All right, hello everybody. Welcome to Comic Book Radio, and I'm your host Peter Cimetti, founder and publisher of Alterna Comics. So to preface this episode, I just want to let you guys know I've seen over, I say roughly 10,000 submissions in the past 17 years as publisher at Alterna. And tonight we're going to be taking a look at not necessarily submissions, but pitches. And right there from my Twitter page. So I thought this was kind of something that was, I guess, long overdue in not in terms of me tweeting this out, but in terms of me discussing it on the show and also in highlighting a lot of the stuff that's out there. There's a lot of comics that are out there, a lot of indie creator-owned comics. And as we all know, some are better than others, and some are coming along, and there's a lot of uncertainty, I think you can say, in terms of where certain creators may be at. And what I mean by that is that there's everybody within the indie space coming along kind of at different points in their comic careers, for lack of a better word. Some are just starting out, some have been doing this for years, some are kind of in the middle of it. So I'm going to be taking a look at some of the pitches here and seeing if hopefully everybody followed directions, which I have to say there were more people that didn't follow directions than I would have liked to have seen. Thank you guys in the chat for joining me tonight. In order to get through all of these, because there's quite a bit of them, there's about 50 or so of them, I'm going to forego for now talking to you guys and highlighting your names and whatnot in the chat, but please feel free to comment on the various pitches that you see here. All right, so reading the tweet, it says, are you a comic creator with a comic that's either available to buy or is crowdfunding right now? If so, reply with your story pitch and put 4 images with a link. I'll share and discuss the responses to this tweet on March 29th's Comic Book Radio show. And so here we are. Right off the bat, I had, unfortunately, 3 people that had responded that did not follow the directions. So can you point out what the directions are? All right, so what the directions are relatively simple. At least I thought they were. And this is something, as a publisher getting submissions in, I would say roughly a quarter, 25% or so of the submissions that we receive just outright do not follow any of the guidelines. I'd say at least half to 60% follow most of the guidelines. There's always a question or 2 or 3 that aren't answered or aren't properly answered. But I'd say as far as who actually is following all of the guidelines on a submission, for Alterna anyway, it's roughly 30%. So it's I'm used to this. But I thought this was simple. Oh, goodness. So the guidelines here, and I just read them, but oh, God. Are you a comic creator with a comic that's either available to buy or is crowdfunding right now? If so, and these are the more pertinent directions on this tweet, reply with your story pitch and put 4 images with a link. Okay. So I'm not gonna necessarily embarrass anybody in terms of pointing things out and saying, hey, look, you didn't follow the directions and whatever on the show, but I am gonna quickly go over those, and I promised that I wouldn't, because I put my tweet, I said, just a reminder, please make sure to follow the very simple directions on the previous tweet. I'll only be highlighting the responses that follow directions. All right, so I'm a little too nice, I guess, with this. I'm not necessarily going to highlight their responses, but I will just briefly touch upon the ones that did not follow those directions. Again, 4 images, a pitch, and a link. It's not too difficult. So Fabrizio here, Fabrizio's got Horace H. Hoover. This is at Alterna, and bless his heart, he put a great pitch. He got the 4 images, but I, because he's one of my guys, I kind of ribbed him a little bit because he put the website as alterncomics.com, not alternacomics.com. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? So I responded and said, I'm sure Altern comics are wonderful, but I thought Alterna published Horace. So Fabrizio puts H.H. Hoover, New York City's greatest space-time occult detective vacuum, a supernatural detective adventure set in the 1920s where esoteric mysteries and arcane evils abound. From ghosts and demonic cults to alien gods, H takes on all cases big and small. Now, he made a lot for the space that he had, although I think he's got blue. So the Twitter blue, I think you can put more here in the tweet. But I digress. So he's got some nice images here. I've got the link in the description of the show. But if you guys want to follow along, feel free to go to the link directly. And you guys can see all of these for yourselves. You can click on their various links. I'm not going to be able to click on all the links tonight. There's so many of these. If there was like 20, then maybe we could visit some of these websites and really scope out some of the images. Now, I know what Horace H. Hoover looks like, so I'm not going to necessarily blow all the images up here in full size. But, you could see real quick. Great looking book. It's at alternacomics.com. And Fabrizio was a good sport about it. He replied back, I think that domain goes to a pocket universe. Boy, oh boy. All right, so we start off next with 2 Gargoyle Comics Kickstarter bit.ly. Goodness gracious. All right. I notice people do this a lot, where they put whatever they put their comic as their name on social media, and then it's on whatever, wherever it is. I've done that in the past before too, but this one is relatively confusing because of the fact that they also have the web address in the avatar. They could, just put 2 Gargoyle Comics on Kickstarter. You don't need to put the unclickable link. Anyway, it says a Diaper Man, and there's going to be very interesting ones tonight. You decide whether you like them or not. It's up to you. I'm not here to judge on the quality. Again, these aren't submissions. I'm going to be looking at the pitches, and I don't want to necessarily grill Fabrizio here too hard with what he put, but he did a good job in terms of he names a character and he puts in, what's the story about, and he gave me the link and he gave me his 4 images, and essentially that's all you really needed to do. Some of these are more interesting and successful, the pitches I mean, than others. Some of them are they really need help. They really need help. Okay, so, and I'll highlight those, and I won't be mean about it, but I'll be my best to be helpful about it, because everyone, like I said, is at different points here. So Diaper Man and his sidekick Sleepers are transported to an alternate Earth to do battle with demons and strange villains when they meet the Diva of Dairy. The Diva of Dairy. Milk. Diaper Man Meets Milk is now on Kickstarter. And then they put a link. All right, so here are the images. I'm not going to cast judgment. This is not my cup of tea. I'll say that. Or my cup of milk. But maybe it's yours. Maybe it's yours. Who am I to judge? So with this, with the pitch, it they name the characters. They name the characters. They let me know what they're doing, and they gave me the title of the book, which is good, and where it's at. So, not a bad pitch necessarily. Pretty basic, but it's more in terms of will I be backing the book? Will I be getting the book? That would depend upon my taste. If I like this book or not, if I like the way that this the subject matter has been pitched here. Again, it's up to you guys. You can decide. You're the customer. I do like the fact that they did this kind of a pitch with the images. So they gave me a cover. I've got interior pages with writing. And I don't know if they're sequential. I don't know if it's essentially, here's page 1, 2, or 3, but you at least would get an idea of the art, the interior page, the writing, that kind of a thing. In terms of just the way, in terms of the pitch setup, it's relatively fine. Other than that, when you put a pitch at all, when you're doing this and you're making comics or you're pitching anything, when it comes to comics especially, I really enjoy seeing pitches that are character focused and give you somewhat of not just necessarily only the emotional hook behind why you should care about what these characters are doing, so you give the stakes, the odds, the conflict, but also obviously give things like the setting and maybe even describe what kind of story this is: horror, sci-fi, action, adventure, yada yada. You can surmise though from what they wrote. Again, not a bad pitch. Dave Brink writes, taking up the mantle of her patriotic father, the iconic superhero Freedom, American Bliss faces the threats that took his life. American Bliss Father's Pride is a story about true heroism, family, and responsibility. That's a pretty solid pitch. Has the link right there too. And the images. So here are the images here. Looks like this is on Kickstarter. Now, there are interior pages here, but it would have been nice to see some writing on them as well. But again, not a requisite. At least Dave followed directions. There's some people that didn't. So, like I said again, it's one of those things. Is this book for you? Is it not for you? That depends entirely upon once you see the pitch, you get the pitch, you read the pitch. Look at the images, subject matter, etc., and you can evaluate it for yourself. In this position here, he's giving you exactly what you need to know for the premise. That obviously this woman's father died, and he was a superhero, and she takes up the mantle of this superhero. She obviously has some superpowers of her own. So check that out. That's Dave Brink's American Bliss, Father's Pride. All right, so Paul at AGE Comics. He says, fall of man takes place in a post-apocalyptic wasteland after society has collapsed, and giant kaiju have risen to stalk the wasteland. Now the superpowered remnants of humanity fight to survive the monsters and each other. All right, so it says in demand and shipping now, and has a link there. Looks like it's on Indiegogo, and here's the art. That's the cover. Some interior pages with writing, which is great to see. Now on this, I can't help but that's quite the predicament. Okay, and what I mean by that is this. So as I'm seeing the pages here, and this is just me talking as a publisher and a creator right now, this is a great shot. That's a great shot. And not to take anything away from the cover, but This would have been a killer cover. Just my 2 cents. That would have been a great cover. I think it accomplishes things better than this. I don't want to critique too hard on any of these. That's not what this is for. But it just caught my eye. It caught my eye as a nice image. All right, so that's Fall of Man, and again, that's on Indiegogo. Again, this is it's a pretty decent pitch. Now, the only thing here that I would have any kind of, I guess you could say, problem is there's no real hint of characters. I'm a big character guy. I want to know, who am I on this journey with? So again, we have here, what the story is about, and that there's a giant kaiju, or maybe many, and the world is a wasteland now. Superpowered humans and whatnot are obviously in the book, but again, we don't have any sense here of who they are. Now, I've said this before. If you have a character within your story, if you refer to them in some kind of a generic term, it doesn't necessarily psychologically create a bond with this character on some level. Whereas if you mention their name, it's a little different. It's the same thing as saying, that guy over there, or that's Michael. Instantly, it's two different things. Two different things happen in your mind. It's a very subtle difference, but when you see character names and things like that, it does matter. And also, maybe your character names are great. Hopefully they're great. Hopefully they sound interesting. If they sound a little too generic, or they sound a little too complex and too complicated, it could be a turnoff for the reader. Something to think about. But in this pitch, I would have liked to have seen character names. But other than that, pretty solid, very story plot focused. The thing is also, maybe it's not character focused at all. Maybe it's just plot driven. A lot of movies are like that. So a lot of TV shows, which I would think are more akin to single issue comics, and movies are more akin to graphic novels and larger stories like that. The graphic novel, the movie, that's more plot driven. You don't really have, you follow what the characters are doing, but there's not really a whole ton of time and space to develop characters in the same exact way that you could develop them over time through episodic adventures or long form kind of storytelling. But yeah, I would have liked to see some character names. But he's not the only one with the character names, but he's the first one that pops up. But overall, good job, Paul. And again, if you're interested in that, check it out. It's on Indiegogo. Odin Dasko says Unconditional Shove Volume 1. 2 stories and 82-page horror anthology. Monsters exist. Using VR tech, we fight nightmare monsters that want to invade our world, our natural world. With friends like these, that's the other story, a mountain homestead and its secret friendship of man and scarecrow. Is that correct? Is that the whole thing? That seems a little bit... I'm very confused, Odin. And I don't... With all this, I say all this stuff with love. I don't say any of this stuff in hate or trying to tear someone down. But I'm confused here, Odin. Okay, so monsters exist. That's one story. All right, so they're using VR tech. We fight nightmare monsters that want to invade our world. You don't have to put natural world. But with friends like these, a mountain homestead and its secret friendship of man and scarecrow. So I'm a little confused. But the link is there. It's Indiegogo. You guys can go check that out. Here are the images. So there's interior pages with writing. That's great. And again, I'm not aware. I don't believe these are sequential. I don't think it's like 1, 2, 3, 4. Or Lord, I hope not. It's 2 stories, so I don't think it's anything like that in terms of, he picked one story to show the first 4 pages. Again, that's not what he was supposed to do or anything. Just show 4 images that relate to the book. But I am confused. I am confused on that. Especially that second pitch. It's because basically the premise is reading like this. A mountain homestead and its secret friendship of man and scarecrow. So there's a mountain. There's basically a home, a ranch, or whatever in a mountain, and it has a friendship with a guy and a scarecrow. So again, I'm kind of confused with that. But other than the confusion on the pitch there, you can see that this is more plot driven as well. This isn't really character driven in terms of you're not following the adventures of a character, what a character is doing specifically. It's more there's something that's occurring, and here are the characters within that plot that's playing out. But that's Odin Dasko with Unconditional Shove, Volume 1. Again, needs a tighter pitch and needs, quite frankly, a bit of a more succinct description here, because it really feels like a sentence fragment. Frankie B. Washington, a friend of mine, Frankie B. All right, so Frankie tags the person he co-created this with, which is BWNN Hunter Bot 21, created by me and M. Blair 112. This is an April Kickstarter campaign, issues 1 and 2. Has the Kickstarter link there. It says, set on an alien world in a far-off future, the last remnants of humanity seek to colonize this planet inhabited by kaiju. Lots of kaiju stuff running around right now. Daikaiju. And then who's right and who's wrong. All right. So I love Frankie. Frankie is going to be an artist on King Cryptid issue 6. But this pitch is leaving me with a lot to desire. I don't know. I don't see a character name here. I'm not really getting a proper title. I'm guessing that this here tag is what it's for. Kaijus and Cowboys official page. And I'm going to go into this thinking I know nothing about any of these books. Okay. I'm going to pretend I don't know anything about this or the other books or whatever else I might see here. So even though on some of them I do know something about them. But I don't really see a title here for it. And I don't have a sense of the character name because it's not being mentioned. It just says that it's set on an alien world in a far-off future. And there's a lot of this, the last remnants of humanity. Everyone always is writing the last remnants of humanity. Who are those last remnants? Are we following all of the remnants? Now, I know Frankie is not the writer on this. I know this fella here is, that he's tagged in there, Matt Blair. But again, we're following specific people on this. We're not just following all of the last remnants of humanity. Name some people. You got to name some of the characters. There's always going to be, even in a hierarchy of characters, there's always going to be like some lead characters and then secondary, etc. Even if you just name the lead characters, who are we spending the most time with? All right. So the planet's inhabited by kaijus. Now this part, who's right and who's wrong, I don't think that necessarily is adding anything. I'm not really a fan of pitches that end in question marks, like, or even issue summaries that end in question marks. I always grit my teeth when I had creators at Alterna that sent in issue submissions for summaries for Diamond or whatever. And Alterna's creator owned, so most of the time it's kind of, it turns into a tug of war and how many battles do you want to fight. But it would always become, some of the submissions and pitches and whatnot would end in question marks. And it would usually, you'd put out a very answerable question. Will they survive? No, no, don't do that. Will they get out of this one? That kind of thing. Because it automatically is like, look, you're giving the audience 50-50. And if you've got a series that's continuing, if I put something like, okay, here's King Cryptid issue 8, I don't know. Will King Cryptid get out of this one alive? Well, there's going to be an issue 9, so yeah, he's going to get out of it alive. You have to have just a finite, here's what happens. Here's what happens. Here's where they are. Here's what they're doing. This is what's going to occur. But with this one, with who's right and who's wrong, is there a moral dilemma here? I thought there was. That there's people on this planet, and it's a wasteland. It's another wasteland planet, and there's kaijus, and I'm guessing they're surviving up against these kaijus, and so the moral dilemma here, there really isn't, I would think, room for moral dilemma in this situation. It's kill or be killed. But it doesn't seem to really be people here either, looking at the pictures, right? So the last remnants of humanity, but I'm seeing robots. See, so this is leaving me with too many questions. This is not a solid pitch. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do a score them out of 10. Let's do that. All right. Let's go back up to Fabrizio. His pitch, I would say it's like a 7 out of 10. 7 out of 10. Only because it could be a little more concise, and we could get to a little bit more of what the character is up to and about, as opposed to just what they're doing. So what I mean by that is that, Horace H. Hoover, it's in the 1920s. I get what he's talking about. There's ghosts and cults and everything else. But it's kind of throwing, here's a character, here's a whole bunch of stuff you're going to see. Okay, see you later. It's a little bit like wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, in terms of a pitch. Solid, nothing spectacular. Solid score, 7 out of 10. Okay, so 2 Gargoyle comics with the Diaper Man one. Say this is kind of closer to a 6 out of 10, only because it is so matter of fact and straightforward in what's occurring that there's no hook necessarily. So I'd say 6 out of 10. Dave Brink, I like that he's leading with the emotional hook on this. It's concise. And that's the thing too with these pitches. Longer, shorter, whatever, that doesn't really matter. As long as you're getting to the point of naming the characters, providing the hook, and being concise enough with what's being presented. And it's not like a big hodgepodge of a word salad, because sometimes pitches turn into big word salads. I would say Dave's pitch here is an 8 out of 10. It does things pretty good. Paul, I would say it's a 7 out of 10. I would have given it an 8 or a 9 even, if he had mentioned some of the character names. Character names are very important. Odin, I would say is more closer to a 5 out of 10. And honestly, that's a little generous, only because it is describing in a sentence one of the stories, and then in a sentence fragment the second. But I'd say a 5 out of 10 on that. Frankie, with this one, I would say this is closer to, we'll say 5.5 out of 10. Maybe 6. But I'm leaning more towards a 5.5 because I don't really have a title here, character names, and then I'm very puzzled as to how it's ending on the question mark. So Frankie, if you watch this, I know sometimes you watch these episodes, talk to the writer, and you guys kind of get more of an impactful pitch. Okay, so here we got Boogie Bot. All right, Boogie Bot, Robert the Bounty. Robert the Bounty. Robert the Bounty cactus. He's got a cactus emoji. I don't know. So it's Robert the Bounty. Maybe it's the Bounty. The sci-fi steampunk western adventure graphic novel of the future today. Hashtag BoogieBot Comics. Now shipping worldwide, and has a link here with Indiegogo. He's got the 4 images. So it's Robert. It is Robert the Bounty. Robert the Bounty. I could have sworn this was on Open Mic Monday a couple times. Wasn't it Robert the Bounty Hunter? I don't know. Maybe it's Robert the Bounty now. That doesn't roll off the tongue for me rather easily. Or is it Robert and then the story is the bounty? Okay, so I'm confused. I'm sorry. It's okay. So when it's Robert. Robert is the title. I'm not going to say anything past that. So I like the fact that there was a cover there, and the interior pages have writing, which is good to see. And that looks like a Clint Eastwood shot right there. Okay. This pitch, though. This pitch is not so much of a pitch as it's like a drive-by. So BoogieBot. Depending where you are. When I mean that, I mean you're on Twitter, where there's character limitations, or you're speaking, or whatever it may be. You're on Twitter here. So if you're going to be pitching this for sale, essentially, the sci-fi steampunk western adventure graphic novel of the future today, I feel like, what did I do to you? Do you just want to tweet to me and leave? Stay a while, write something concise. What are you in a rush for? So you're throwing a bunch of genres at me, essentially. That's not a story. You're not telling me anything about what's happening in this story. The title is confusing. If the bounty is the name of the story, and it's the subtitle, you should have Robert : the bounty. The 2 dots. If it's Robert or dash the bounty, it looks like that's his name. Like he's Robert the Bounty. So that's something right there. Think about that. But like this, you're just presenting a whole bunch of genres and then telling me the graphic novel of the future today. Don't get a little too cute with it. It's better to be direct than it is to be cute with the pitches. Again, you're throwing a bunch of genres at me. Sci-fi, steampunk, western, adventure. Okay, but you didn't describe the story. You didn't describe the story or the character or the setup, the conflict, what's occurring here. So I would have to say that this pitch is 4 out of 10. Because it's not really doing much of anything other than telling me the genre and kind of the name of the book. Again, if you're going to pitch your book, don't act like you're doing me a favor. Like I come along and I'm like, hey, can you just, could it be a bother to you to tell me about your book? And you're like, all right, yeah, it's sci-fi, steampunk, western adventure. It's a graphic novel. Go get it. That's how it comes across. Tell me about the character. Tell me about the story. Make the most of that time. All right. Brian Baugh says, my comic, Wolf and Batsy, this is another Alterna creator. And Brian was one of the people that did not follow the directions. He put one image, and it was an old image from years ago. An old image from years ago. I was like, Brian, 4 images, sir. Please and thank you. So both of the Alterna individuals, Fabrizio with alterncomics.com, so the wrong website, and then Brian, he corrected it, but originally puts just one image. So I said that to him. He corrected it. That's great. He goes, my comic Wolf and Batsy tells the adventures of a ferocious werewolf and a cute female vampire wandering the earth looking for a place to call home. But everywhere they go, they eat people and get run out of town. Published by Alterna Comics, order issues 1-6, and puts alternacomics.com. And then here are the images he put, and these are just the cover images, 1, 2, 3, and 6. So it's pretty concise. It's a good pitch. Mentions the title, mentions the character names within the title. That's a bonus. It's 2 birds with 1 stone for that situation there. Mentions basically the premise, who they are, what they're trying to do, and you get the sense that because of that second sentence there, but everywhere they go they eat people and get run out of town, these guys aren't necessarily heroes, though they may be the protagonists. So it already sets up a pretty interesting premise in terms of what they're up to, what's going to happen, and then he puts order issues 1-6, so you can imagine that there's at least a bunch of issues and a bunch of stories. So I would give this pitch a solid 8 out of 10. A solid 8 out of 10. Brian did a good job with that. I'm glad he revised it, and I'm glad he put recent images. Not that the image was necessarily bad of what he put, but it's years and years old. Try to be current with what it is you're putting out. If he had put one interior page, this would have been a 9 out of 10 because of the overall pitch with the images. But solid 8 out of 10. Alex Diotto says, this was one of the ones that didn't follow directions. So I'm not even going to read this one. But Alex, you forgot your link. I don't know where to go to get whatever it is you're talking about here. So you forgot your link. So this is a disqualified. Disqualified. If you want to see it, you want to read it, go to the link. It's in the description of this video, and you can get access to that tweet, and you can see all of the different pitches and links and images and whatnot on here. But Alex, you forgot your link. Art of Andres Labrada. That's let's see, an action monster horror series about a band of supernatural coffee shop patrons that team up to secretly protect the owner from supernatural threats. He puts the link there, and here are some images. All right, so he's got the cover, but goodness, I don't know how to pronounce that. Kashoho. And hey, I'm not going to take points off just in case I'm an absolute idiot, but I'm not necessarily entirely sure how to pronounce that title. I like the fact that he's got interior pages here with writing. That's always a plus as well, like I keep pointing out. So pretty concise with that. Again, though, the pitch, there's no mention of character. I know he's got the title on there with the cover, but he's got more than enough room here on the tweet to write that title and mention, what is this? Is this an ongoing series? Is this a limited series? Is this a one-shot? Is this a graphic novel? Because a lot of people nowadays, I'm finding they even do the trade dress on the cover for their graphic novels like it's a single issue. So it's all becoming very confusing lately. But I don't have any sense of what that is. Again, I'd like to see character names. I like that he's got the genre there in terms of an action monster horror series about a band of supernatural coffee shop patrons. Not necessarily maybe the type of thing that I'd be interested in or whatever, but that doesn't really matter. That's neither here nor there. But in terms of give me something else. Give me something else with it too. But I'm very confused about how to pronounce that title. Kashoho. Kosh ho ho, Kosh o o, Kosh o o. So yeah, I'm confused about that. All right. So Nathan Johns, Godslayers. Oh, good grief! Where's the link? Nathan, where's the link? All right, there's 2 replies there. I didn't see 2 replies to the other one. Maybe he follows it up. B.A. Turner, let's add your Kickstarter link. BA's like, follow directions. Wink, wink. So there's the link. All right. So Nathan forgot the link. BA reminded him. And Nathan then put that link there. All right. So Godslayers episode 2 continues the story of waking the Godslayer. The world of Athenia is under siege by the Yama king Mastema, but a small band of heroes had risen to turn the tides of Mastema's onslaught and save their world. Man, everyone loves like the cliched phrases. Before I get into it, I'm seeing last remnants of humanity, band of heroes, etc., etc. Now, this is something, again, I've seen a lot of submissions. They all do the same things with this, too. Everyone's using various forms of cliches with that, but not being descriptive about those cliches. Again, we don't have any mention of who those heroes are. We have a mention here of, okay, so it's Godslayers episode 2, continuing the story of waking the Godslayer. Well, who's the Godslayer? Who's the Godslayer? You're burying the lead. You're pitching this for the first time. It seems like I need to know who this Godslayer individual is. The world of Athenia is under siege by the Yama king Mastema, but a small band of heroes has risen to turn the tides of Mastema's onslaught and save the world. Save their world. Again, you got some more room. Mention some character names. A small band of heroes, mention, but blah, 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 are going to fight against Mastema's onslaught, save their world. It's something I find a lot in indie comics, a lot in comics in general. And I don't know why this is. But I find, especially in indie, there's almost like a quiet embarrassment of character names. I find that a lot. And I don't know if it is embarrassment or whatever it may be, but I notice more people than not do not want to mention the names of their characters. I don't know why, but I notice it a lot. When they talk about it, they like to talk about it in a way that makes it seem kind of generic. In a world where there's monsters and there's this and there's that and there's things happening. Yeah, okay. Well, who's it happening to? Who's it happening to that I'm supposed to care about, that I'm supposed to spend my time on? Money, whatever. Money's money, I don't want to say money's nothing, but you're asking someone to spend time. Now, someone can always make money back. They could always sell the book or whatever it may be. But the time, they're never going to get back the time. So I want to know, who am I spending my time with? What's one of the first things you learn about someone that you, I don't know, maybe want to be friends with? Especially as kids, right? What's your name? What's your name? Everyone's, what's your name? Right? You want to know the person's name. Who is this individual you are speaking with, you're spending time with? You want to know their name. And a lot of people, when they pitch their books, they don't want to tell you the character names. I don't know why this is. It happens on so many submissions that I see. It's happening on a lot of these pitches here. No one wants to say the name. I don't know why that is. You know, but they're okay with saying the name here of Yama King Mastema. But the individuals that are up against this person, there's no mention of their names. All right. So you have a couple pictures here. They're very dark. They're very dark, and I'm not getting a sense of the comic because I'm not getting a sense that these are pages. I'm getting a sense maybe these are panels. There's no cover shot here. So got the 4 images, but it's a bit confusing, Nathan. Take some time to assess that you're delivering a pitch. You're delivering a pitch right now. You're basically saying, would you be interested in this story? And to get someone interested in the story, you have to tell them what that story is about, who's in that story, and what are they doing in that story. Because if you don't, it's so simple. It's simple stuff, right? The who, what, where, when, and why. Now, you can kind of be coy with the why, right? Because the why is going to maybe give away a little too many character motivations that you want them to read about. But let them know the who. Let them know the what. Let them know the where. When is also very important, right? Especially if your story is in the future, in the past, whatever it may be. Most stories are kind of set in some kind of time period that's past, present, future. If it's the present, okay. It's okay if you don't want to mention the when. If it's the past or if it's the future, absolutely mention the when. And again, the why, I can forgive not mentioning the why in a sales pitch like this. Pitching and submitting to a publisher is a bit different. Make sure to mention everything. People are very coy still. They don't want to tell you anything. But you got to mention the who, the what, the where, and the when. All right. Most of these are foregoing the who. The who is a generic, faceless thing. The what, in terms of what are they doing? What's the who doing? You know, where are they going? All of that stuff. Sometimes people mention that, but sometimes they don't. Sometimes that's very generic too. So the who is a generic, faceless, nameless entity, and they're doing relatively generic things. You know, they're fighting bad stuff. Is essentially, you know, when you say certain things, like a lot of the stuff we're seeing. You know, so make sure that there's some kind of a more specific hook to it. So Nathan, I'm gonna have to say, oh man, I'm gonna have to say 5 out of 10. 5 out of 10. It's not horrible, you know, it's not good. It needs some touching up here. And the images did not help. And I'm seeing some of the conversation in the chat. Thank you guys. I appreciate it. I see some of you guys on the side. Lady Allie. I'm glad you appreciate it. Thank you. I hope it helps. Everybody here, I hope it helps. If you're a creator and if you're a reader as well and you're assessing these things. That's the thing, is that I'm not here to gatekeep. And I know it's tough to say that with a straight face, because I'm a publisher. So there's submissions and I do have to say, okay, this and that, whatever. But I'm not here to gatekeep creators from creating. I want to see creators make something great. I'm here as kind of like first line of defense. This is how I picture myself anyway. I'm here first line of defense between a story that I think someone may be interested in reading, a story of quality and merit, a story of some kind of interesting subject matter, interesting character, and a story that maybe isn't as interesting, isn't as valid in terms of what they're trying to accomplish. You know, it's not quite ready yet. So that's my job as a publisher, looking at that, looking at submissions, looking at pitches, and seeing all that stuff. Now, as readers, a lot of you guys just look at things and it's instinctual almost. I'm sure that everything I've been reading so far, you guys have either been turned on, turned off. And I'm sure the same thing can be said too, even if you were to go to alternacomics.com and you look at certain books and you're turned on, turned off immediately. That's how we all work when it comes to all this stuff. You see something immediately, you read the description, if it catches your eye visually, and the description either will make you want to see more or make you kind of not want to see that ever again. You know, maybe if you see more of it out and about and you go, oh, I guess I kind of passed on a little too quickly, right? That was the beauty of comics too, with the episodic, you know, you get a bunch of issues. You know, maybe that one issue you saw, or that was 4 or 5 or 10, didn't look that great to you. And then that 11th one came along and it was like, oh, wow. Oh, I got to pick that up. That looks interesting to me. You know, and then all of a sudden you go, oh, wow, yeah, I'm passing on something kind of cool here. You know, these characters are interesting. And then you go and you sort out the rest. That's happened to me with a couple different books. I'm sure it's probably happened to you as well. But we don't really have that as much now anymore. And in the indie scope, especially, I'm seeing a lot of plot-driven stuff. And I'll get back to these pitches in a second, but I'm seeing a lot of plot-driven stuff. And plot-driven, there's pros and cons to both plot and character-driven. Now, when you're doing something so plot-centric, so plot-focused, you really got to make sure that plot sounds interesting as all hell. Because if it doesn't, that's the only shot you got. Now, if it's character-centric, you're going to have plots, of course. You always have a plot. But the characters lead. The characters lead the way. So it's more about the characters, their personalities, their motivations, and the situations they're getting themselves in and how they react to those situations. It's a lot more closer to life, to be perfectly honest. And it's more about every single story is a new chance to get in on the overall series that you're working on. But a lot of indie creators don't really do much of that anymore. I'm noticing a lot of them are very, like I said, they're plot-centric, plot-driven, and you don't really get those second chances when that comes around. So it's very important. If you're going to be very plot-driven, you really got to nail that pitch. You really got to make sure you're doing the who, what, where, when, and why. And like I said, the why, it's okay, I can forgive it. But you really got to make sure you're doing at least 4 out of those 5. All right, we're moving on here. Trevor A. Mueller says, I have a comic available to buy called Albert the Alien, which was nominated for 2 Harvey Awards. It's about the first foreign exchange student from space and his adventures learning about our planet and culture. All 4 volumes are available here and has a link. So this is an all ages book. It's more focused towards kids. Let's see, is this going to load up? There it is. So there's Albert the Alien, and this is volume 4. So this has been around for a bit. All right, so it looks pretty on point for what an all ages kind of book that's more kid focused would be about. Now he's mentioning the title. He's mentioning, his nominations. Nominations are nice, and I don't want to take away their nominations, but mention if you won those awards, mention them. And even then, I would hesitate. I'm not a fan of awards. That's nice. I know how awards work in the entertainment industries. Awards don't impress me too much, but I get it. It's a point to be proud of it. Fine. I understand, but nominated, all right? Now, that's a lot of space you can use in your sales pitch there to instead, because all that someone's going to hear, for the most part, when they hear nominated, is that you lost. Someone else won, which means someone else is better, which means they should go get that book instead of your book. Now, this is brutally honest advice when it comes to that, okay? I'm not trying to be insulting. I'm not trying to be hurtful. But so Trevor, that's cool. Congrats on that. But at the same time, it's probably not going to win you a lot of sales to say that you were nominated. It's going to automatically make it. At least it makes me think that. I'm sure it'll make most people think that of, well, who won? I got to go check theirs out. And the last thing you want someone to think about as you're pitching is someone else's stuff. And there's some big problems in the pitch below that I'm going to get to that revolve around exactly that. When you pitch, making someone else think about not what you're working on, but what other people have worked on. Okay, so with this one, it's about the first foreign exchange student from space. Interesting enough premise. You could do a lot with that. And his adventures learning about our planet and culture. So you see that there's 4 volumes available. You put volume 4 up in here of what it looks like. A couple of these shots here as well. He's got his store envy link. It's a pretty solid pitch for the most part. He mentions the character name. He mentions the title. And the premise is it's short, sweet, and concise. And it sets up at least your imagination can kind of run with it a bit. What would have been turning this from, I'd say, a 7, maybe even an 8. I would have liked to have seen an interior page on the image. And then also it could have been a solid 8, maybe even a 9, if he had mentioned an example of some of the adventures. All right, so, volume 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm guessing there's an overall plot involved or whatever it may be. Would have been interesting to see that. But it's a pretty solid pitch, solid 7. Breakthrough. This one is concerning. Okay, this one's concerning for multiple reasons. Breakthrough Comics, my friend. Toy Story meets The Walking Dead in The Toys Who Walk, issue number 1, out this summer. And then quote tweets his own tweet to give me the premise of the thing here. This makes me feel like, am I taking some time out of your day today, my friend, to have you promote your book? Am I bothering you right now? It feels very, yeah, whatever, here you go. I got other stuff to do, okay? Leave me alone. It feels like that. Because it's just like, look, it's like this other thing with this other thing and it's out this summer. All right, here you go. And here are some pages. The major critique I got to give right off the bat is this looks like Robin. When you do your character design, I'm trying not to do critique on these, but when you do your character design, try not to make them look so much like another characters. Look. Okay. So there's interior pages here, but they don't tell me anything. There's no writing on it, and they're not very impactful panels and pages. All right. Again, there's no link here. I see your quoted tweet. But come on, Breakthrough Comics. Like you're pitching for to promote your book here. It's the last time on earth you ever want to appear lazy. Toy Story meets The Walking Dead. Now I'm reading the thing here. Sentient toys struggling to survive in a world that is way too big for them. That just sounds like Toy Story. So that pitch itself there, it sounds like Toy Story in the quoted tweet. But then up here, Toy Story meets The Walking Dead. So automatically I'm thinking Toy Story. Toys that come to life when humans aren't around and they're on some kind of mission, adventure, etc., etc. But then you throw The Walking Dead at me. I'm thinking, like, is this a post-apocalypse? Are there zombies involved? Now, I know about Toy Story and Walking Dead. What if I'm someone that I don't really care or know of either Toy Story or The Walking Dead? This pitch just meant nothing to me then, other than you just made me go want to look up what is Toy Story and The Walking Dead. Don't do this. And there are several pitches that do this, and there are many submissions and pitches that I get just overall that do this, that don't even describe the story that they're making, but they go into it and say it's like this and this, and that's the thing that you have here. It also looks very, when you do that, you're essentially saying I'm ripping off these two things, and I'm making, whatever out of them. I watched Toy Story, I read or watched The Walking Dead, and I'm combining the two. Now, like Allie just said, I hate Toy Story and Walking Dead. Now, what if this really isn't like Toy Story or The Walking Dead? You just lost Allie or whoever out there that feels the same way. So don't do this. When you're pitching, nothing else exists. Only your story exists. I even suggest, if you explain the pitch here, if you give the description of what your story and characters are about, I even would say don't even go, this is perfect for fans of yada yada. Now that happened, we used to do that a lot for retailers. And the reason for that is because this way retailers would know where this belongs in their store, what kind of customer they may have that's interested in it, so they can then say, hey, take a look, read this book. Pitching to a publisher, pitching to a reader, customer, pitching to a retailer, pitching to a distributor, etc. There's all different ways and methodologies of going when you're pitching to someone. So you pitch to everyone differently. You pitch to the publisher with the mindset of this would be good for your readership. So which means you also have to know what are they usually prone to publishing. Pitching to the retailer. This would be good for your customers. This is how you can sell this to your customers. That's how you pitch to the retailer. Pitching to the customer. This would be good for you because this is like, this is what the story is. So this may be something that you'd be interested in based on what I just described. Pitching to the distributor. It's a lot colder. It's a lot more life-sucking. It's more just the facts. It's this demographic. This is the genre. This is the creative team. These are the kind of sales that we could potentially bring. It's very cold and it's not as fun. But you're pitching in different ways. So you have to know who you're pitching to. Here, I'm being pitched to as a potential customer. And likewise with you guys as well. You'd be watching or you'd be seeing this in the thread and you'd be being pitched to this as a potential customer. Make sure you're describing your story. Make sure you're describing your story as if no other story ever existed before. Hockey says, would you say inspired by? I would say get the hell away from inspired by. Don't say inspired by, don't say based on, unless it is. And if it's based on a fictional work, get prepared for a lawsuit. So if you say, here's my story, and you describe your story, inspired by Spider-Man, that's not what you want to say. Now, if it's inspired by true events, if inspired by something non-fictional that's occurred, that's one thing. If it's based on something that's non-fictional, real events that have occurred, that's one thing. But if it's based on or inspired by fictional events, fictional characters, you better hope you stay as obscure as possible. And don't run around saying that. I had a big problem constantly, just to give you some insight with Alterna and my own experiences. I had a big problem with Mighty Mascots. More and more issues. And maybe this is even why Keith decided to quit one day. More and more issues were too derivative, too many characters based on things that exist, ripping off straight up character designs, even sometimes getting too close to character names. And I'd say, Keith, you got some characters here already. Build upon them in their world. I said, the last thing that you want, you can't run by and say parody this, parody that on everything. You're going to come across something where legally you have no leg to stand on. You're ripping off advertising characters. And you're doing it a little too closely. You're going to get in trouble. So when you go into parody as well, be careful. Be careful on parody. Because a lot of people think, like, as long as I'm being satirical or I'm parodying, that I'm perfectly untouchable. Not true. You really got to make sure what you're doing. You really got to make sure. All right. Here's Alberto. Alberto says, I'm currently doing monthly one-shot comics, horror, fantasy, sci-fi, comedy, etc. But I'll be starting publishing in a few months a new series plus various miniseries. While they're free, you can buy their PDF version to support me. Read here. It's not a pitch, Alberto. This is more a description of what it is you're doing. This is not a pitch for your story. Oh, so there's the link right there. And Alberto has some images here. He's got 3, not 4. But again, he's not giving me. This isn't a pitch. This is him just saying, here's what I do, and I'm going to be doing more of it. I give this a 2 out of 10. I would give this a 2 out of 10. It's not a pitch. And the only reason it's a 2 out of 10 is because there's some images here that are talking about the comic he's making that I have no idea of what it is. I don't know why it's difficult for people. I don't know why. I don't know why. I just want to know what your story's about. I'm basically saying, look, hey, give me a pitch here. Sell me your book. Give me a pitch. Make it, this is what I'm doing. This is what it's about. Here's what it looks like. And here's where to get it. That's it. It's not complicated. Alberto, revise. Board developer, murdered in pointless violence. A deal with a devil allows a husband, a father, to seek revenge for his family. Book 1 of 5 is complete, drawn, colored, lettered, and will be available in color and black and white when the campaign closes June 1st. Currently pre-launch. Okay, and he's got the link there for the pre-launch. Okay, so here are the images. Again, I'm doing my best to not critique. Just take what it is and take a look at it. Okay, so I sure hope this is a double spread page here. Only because of how small the lettering is. And then there's another page. And then there's the black and white, and there's the colored. There's an image with that. All right, with this one, again, it's like what I've been saying the whole time. So if we assess the first sentence here, murdered in pointless violence, a deal with a devil, not the devil, allows a husband, a father, to seek revenge for his family. The sentence structure here is poor. Work on that sentence structure. There's no name. Again, this is a nameless husband, father. And imagine if it was here. And pointless violence is, you could say murdered in cold blood. Murdered in cold blood. A deal with the devil, and name the demon the devil, or the demon, etc. And you could even say so-and-so, the name of this husband or father, all these different things. You could say all of that, but this has to be a sentence that's rearranged. After so-and-so's family is murdered in cold blood, he makes a deal with the demon Etrigan. He makes a deal with the demon to seek revenge for his family. Makes a deal with the devil, makes a deal with the demon, whatever it may be. Now, I'm guessing it's a specific kind of demon or devil or whatever. I mean, not like the devil, only because they wrote it that way, with a devil. But maybe it is the devil. Again, it's very uncertain. The way it's written here, it's poorly written. And if your pitch is going to be poorly written, people are going to assume your book is poorly written. So again, make sure, write it properly. Spend some time, take a minute, take a second. So, you want to make sure that you're not going into it and you're pitching in a way that makes it feel like this is rushed. I don't have time for this crap. Check it out and buy it, whatever. That's the attitude that kind of comes across when you just blow through. When someone's saying, hey, give me a pitch for your story. I want to know what it's about. And you're just like, just whatever, man. It's whatever it is. Here it is. Take a look. That's how it feels. And I know there's a lot of customers that feel that way too when it's that scenario as well. They feel like, okay, well, if you don't really care to tell me about your story, I'm not going to care to read it. So, hey, don't be surprised. But board developer, give the title, give character names, reassess that sentence. You got to revise that. Man, that's going to be a 4 out of 10, a very kind 4 out of 10. It came from the radio. A comic 30 years in the making. Designated tells... Designated? I hate this when I'm getting caught in the middle of it. And I'm like, is this not written properly? Is this the name of a character? There's been a lot of pitches that are like this where I'm thinking the flow of the sentence, I'm expecting it to be a certain way, and it just stops me dead in my tracks. A comic 30 years in the making. Designated tells the tale of two... Oh, okay, so it's Designated is the title. I'm guessing. Let's see, is that... Okay, so Designated is the title. Tells the tale of two warring races fighting over a newly discovered power source. The battle finds its way to Earth, where 4 young adults and 1 5-year-old boy gain abilities as a result. And they've got the link there. Crowdfunder. Oh boy, crowdfunder. I guess I can't talk about it. It came from the radio. I'm sorry, but I can't pitch this because crowdfunder are awful. They're awful and discriminatory. And if they found out who I was and I was saying, go spend your money here, go to this website, they would say, I don't want anything to do with this book. It's getting shut down. So-and-so, who is an awful person, recommended people go and support this book or talked about this book or whatever. Crowdfunder, if you guys don't know, go look up the whole fiasco with all their nonsense. Anyway, it came from the radio. A comic 30 years in the making. All right. Again, when you're pitching like this to the story, every word, every part of that sentence goes towards and matters towards describing the thing that matters the most, which is the story and the characters. I could sit here and say all of my comics are, however old I am. And be hyperbolic about it left and right and all over the place. And it's not going to help sell it. It's not going to help sell that book. So you just used, this whole part here. Comic 30 years in them. It doesn't matter. So Designated, all caps, put that there. Designated tells the tale of 2 warring races fighting over a newly discovered power source. What are the names of the races? All right. Names of things. Names of things is good. Try not to be generic when you can. The battle finds its way to Earth, capital E, where 4 young adults and 1 5-year-old boy gain abilities as a result. All right. So I'm guessing this is what? This is an all ages book. If it's going to have a 5-year-old boy as a main character, I'm guessing it's an all ages book. All right, so there's 2 covers, and here's an interior page. There's 2 interior pages. All right, so I don't know if this is a variant cover, a graphic novel. I really don't know. Again, name some names. Give me something specific as to what they're doing. 2 warring races fighting over a newly discovered power source. What power source? I'm asking I'm finding a lot of the pitches I'm asking too many questions on things that I shouldn't have to ask questions about. It's not one of those read the book, you'll find out. It's not that kind of a thing. The battle finds its way to Earth where 4 young adults, and I'm sorry when I'm thinking out loud like this, I'm trying to make heads or tails of the pitches. A lot of them get, honestly, relatively kind of confusing, to be perfectly honest with you guys. So the battle finds its way to Earth that these 2 alien races is really what it is what this is, what I'm discerning here after rereading this like 4 times. So the battle finds its way to Earth where 4 young adults and 1 5-year-old boy gain abilities as a result. They gain the abilities as the result of the new power source or the war that's going on with the alien races, or again, sentence structure here. There's a lot of things going on that make this more confusing than not. And once again, if your pitch is going to be structured in a confusing manner, I'm going to bet dollars to donuts that the book is confusing too. All right. This is going to get a 4 out of 10. Oh, man. And chat, I'm not trying to ignore you tonight. I'm not trying to ignore you, but there's so much here. We probably have about 15 or so more. So probably another half hour or so. And I appreciate you guys being in here. I appreciate you guys watching tonight. So many of these things sound beyond... Because that's the thing, too, is I hate to say that these all sound derivative. Because every story is going to be unique, even if it's derivative. But I'm finding a lot of these pitches aren't finding what it is that makes you unique. Alien invasion story. It's happened a million times. What it is that makes it unique. What's going on? You get bad versus good. Superpowered beings fighting each other. What makes it unique? What makes it different? Don't lead with the generic. Don't bury what makes it unique. There's a lot of stuff here in the pitch structure where they're burying the thing that makes it different. And unfortunately, I mean, it's resulting in stuff that just sounds like anything and everything else you've ever seen and heard before. So don't bury what makes it unique. Colt, Deadly Delights. Okay, this is from Sloaney11. It says, Colt Deadly Delights follows Colt as he searches for his arch nemesis, Willow. Colt will stop at nothing to find the elusive serial killer. And then he puts in quotes, will this lead prove to be the one that closes in on Willow? Or has he just entered a deadly game of cat and mouse with another party? I think he didn't put a link. And I think that's a question at the end. There's no question mark there, but it sure reads like a question. I don't know why there's an open quote there, but no closed quote. It started off so promising, right? He's naming the name of the title here and the name of the characters. And then it immediately turns into, and this is why the question part in a pitch, don't do it, right? Will this lead prove to be the one that closes in on Willow? Or has he just entered a deadly game of cat and mouse with another party? So you're providing the question here. It's not an open-ended question. It's a question now that's offering 2 premises. And both of these things, it's going to be one or the other. So the reader's going to go, obviously he's not closing in on Willow. So it's the other premise. This is why I don't do questions. Don't do the questions in the pitch. You're just making it kind of overly complicated, and I know it's immediately to set up intrigue. A lot of people put the question in there. It's to set up this intriguing kind of, if I ask the question, it'll make the reader ask the question. But the reader doesn't know what the hell that they even need to be asking questions about necessarily in your story. And the more questions you throw at them within the pitch, the more it makes them actually confused. So, Sloaney 11. You don't have a link here, so I don't know what's what. And to be perfectly honest, I spent more time on this than I should have for someone who didn't follow the directions. Johnny Torch, creator of Bullets Bourbon, says the adventures of Bullets Bourbon Private Eye, where a down-on-his-luck private eye takes on the most colorful collection of villains imaginable to save Stark City from the forces of evil. I hope some of my covers from the past 10 years will do. And then puts a Indie Planet link here. And then, again, he's got his covers and whatnot for his comic. Again, I'm not here to really critique or anything tonight. It's more about evaluating the pitch. Adventures of Bullets Bourbon Private Eye. So right there, the title. You're getting the name of the character. He's a down-on-his-luck private eye, and he takes on a colorful collection of villains. And where is he? He's in Stark City. What's he doing? He's saving the city from the forces of evil. I mean, it's pretty concise. So as far as the pitch goes, this is like a solid 7 out of 10. So just because you might look at it and go, this doesn't sound as fantastical as something else or whatever it may be or whatever, but it's like, and I agree, maybe with some different art, this could be like a Dick Tracy level of something. So Johnny Torch, you've got the writing, get some better art and maybe you can make some headway. But again, as far as judging the pitch goes, pitch 7 out of 10. It's concise, the character names, what they're up to and everything else. If it was some great art, you get a 9 out of 10 on the images in terms of, for me anyway. I'd probably be interested in picking it up, to be perfectly honest. But yeah, Johnny, definitely, if he's going for what he's going for and he's doing that, stuff appeals for everybody. I'm not here tonight to necessarily critique too hard in terms of what the books and everything look like. Johnny, you're in the chat. I see you right there. He says, my style is purposefully cartoony. You got some interesting stuff here. You got a solid pitch. Like I said, that's what I'm here looking at tonight is the pitches. And the pitch, 7 out of 10. Which is better than most tonight. Most people, the pitches are all over the place. Goodness. Trevor Mueller is back. Trevor Mueller says, I have a Webtoon original series you can read right now for free, and readership helps us out big time. Trevor. Trevor mentioned the Harvey nominations before. Trevor's not just going right to the story pitch. Nexus Point is a cyberpunk action series about hackers fighting bounty hunters. But who is manipulating them to become enemies? It's another question. So there's the link right there. It says read for free. All right. So here is a Nexus Point. This looks like some promo stuff. It's a Webtoon series here. I gotta say, Trevor, your other pitch was way better. Your other pitch, it stuck with me immediately. I still remember it. The first foreign exchange student from space. That sounds like an interesting premise. It was a solid pitch. It was concise. This one, I forgot about it as soon as I read it, to be completely honest with you. Nexus Point is a cyberpunk action series about hackers fighting bounty hunters. The pitches are, we've seen this a lot tonight. The pitches are, it's nameless, faceless entity versus nameless, faceless entity to do something. Find that hook. Give me the who in terms of what we're following. All right, but who's manipulating them to become enemies? So if someone else is pulling the strings and you want to be coy about that, don't ask the question. So nexus point. A shadowy group is manipulating people to fight with each other, and something or other. I don't know what this series is about, but that's what it sounds like what you're doing. And then name this character is and what happened and what got them into the fight. This one's not as successful a pitch as the other one, as Albert the Alien. I even remember the name of the series because the other pitch was so good. This I'd say is like a 4 out of 10. A 4 out of 10 on the pitch, Trevor. Let's see. Let's scroll down a bit here. I love it when the mouse freezes up. Maybe we could do it manually here. All right, Randall Bishop says, follow the growth of a street-level vigilante in the 90s as he rides against a unique fate marked with horror, music, American Indian myth, and outlaw motorcycle culture with a dash of martial arts. Published by Timebound Entertainment and sold here. So he puts that link for Timebound. All right, so let's see what this is. So he's got this advertisement here, Timebound, a Hawk of New York. Got an interior page here and another interior page. All right, so Randall, don't forget, mention your title. Mention the name of your character. It's over and over again. I'm saying the same things. You got to mention those things. You're doing a sales pitch. You got to mention what it is. Right off the bat, it should be title, understood. Now, some people are going to be lucky with the title and that it has the name of the character within the title. Some people are going to be, it's going to be different. And you're going to have a more abstract title. But you got to mention the title. Mention the name of the character. The pitch on this, I'd say it's like a 6 out of 10. It's not horrible. It could be better. It's a little vague. But yeah, mention the characters, what they're doing. I find I'm saying a lot of the same things over and over. I'm not too surprised, though. Not too surprised. I kind of expected that going into the show tonight. Clay's Comics Streams says Clayman's One Shot features our titular hero, Clay, just doing his usual grocery store run when he gets involved in a robbery. Right. Okay, so the sentence here could be a little bit tighter. Because, all right, so Clayman's One Shot. Okay. Punctuation. I know I'm getting dicey, but it doesn't help when I'm trying to read what it is that it is what it is. All right, just doing his usual grocery store run, comma, when he gets involved in a robbery. Clayman X Demon Hunter number 1 to 2 is the hero crossover comic of the century. Oh, come on. Sell me some steak. Leave that sizzle behind. All right. So here's what Clay's got. Clayman. So there's the cover. Oh, good grief. Are you kidding me? Oh, Micah Myers, I swear. Clay, do you know you're working with Micah Myers? I don't even want to go down that conversation. Oh my lord. I'm not fond of Micah Myers. I'm not going to get into it tonight. Why? But Clay, and I can only say Clay because that's all I have to go on, because that's the name here too of your account. Tighten up some of the grammar on this, to some of the sentence structure. Don't be cute with the whole, it's the crossover comic of the century, be the cute stuff, the hyperbolic stuff, the fun, the sizzle, right? I like that after I've been given the steak. And I know most people feel that way too, because it doesn't mean anything to them. It's just empty words, to say something like that. And you're kind of setting yourself up. A lot of people that do this are setting themselves up to kind of get deflated. So just describe the story, describe the characters, what they're up against, what they're doing, and be relatively straightforward with it, but punch up the language you use to make it sound exciting. You don't need to have exciting phrases to make it sound exciting. But yeah, this is I'm also confused here because it's a one shot, but then there's number 1 to 2, and so two things are getting pitched at the same time. Clayman and Demon Hunter. Clayman and Demon Hunter, I'm guessing, are. So he's Demon Hunter Raven. So those are two characters that I'm guessing Demon Hunter, where it's a crossover, it's from another creator, or is it from you too? All right. So either way, the pitch, it's gonna need some work. I'm gonna honestly say the pitch is gonna be at a 5 out of 10. A 5 out of 10. Just we need people to be. I was going to quote Bruce Lee right there with "we need emotional content," but it really is true though. We need people that aren't staring at the finger pointing to the moon. Because as readers, we're missing all of that heavenly glory. Because these pitches are constantly saying, focus on the finger. Not what it's pointing to. Not the larger picture here. And we're all focusing, we're all being told, look at the finger, look at the pitch, look at what I'm talking about. But we're really missing the bigger thing, which is the story. Because the story isn't actually being pitched. The product is being pitched. Those are two different things. I know you might think like that feels like it's the same thing. But the product is a cold comic book or graphic novel, whatever it may be. The story is what's between those covers. That's what makes it worthwhile. A lot of people are pitching the product and not pitching the story. Grim Drawn Comics here says it is the year 42. Whoa, lordy, 42024. So 42,024. I know they got like that palindrome thing going on here. 42024. All right, that's very far into the future. And humanity has been at war for 10,000 years. I would estimate that humanity's been at war since day one. Far longer than that. 10,000 years of war, that's nothing. For 42,000 years of existence, I would guess 42,000 plus years of war. Anyway, enough being cheeky. It says, why after all this time have exhaustion and annihilation not tipped the scales? Perhaps an ancient AI. Oh, now I'm seeing that there's no link. Okay, this has a reply. Is there a link? Okay, there's the link. All right. Good grief. I'll continue to read it then. So why after all this time have exhaustion? After all this time has exhaustion and annihilation not tipped the scales? Perhaps an ancient AI and a dead but dreaming emperor plugged into the golden panopticon might. Nah, there is only war. It's 42024. Oh, Grim Drawn Comics, you're losing me like crazy here. Grim Drawn, you're losing me like crazy. Okay, I'm gonna, without discerning any of it, and giving away my thought pattern here. Yes, Ross, that's exactly what I'm thinking as well. It is the year 42024, and humanity has been at war for 10,000 years. Why, after all this time, have exhaustion and annihilation not tipped the scales? Perhaps an ancient AI and a dead but dreaming emperor plugged into the golden panopticon might... ... Nah, there is only war. It's 42024. And here are some of the images. I'm gonna give this a 2 out of 10 on the pitch. Grimdrawn, what are you doing here? What are you doing here? I have nothing nice to say, so I'm not going to say anything at all. Jason Sandberg, a teen trapped in an unhappy home gains the ability to escape anywhere or stay to become a hero. And there's the Indiegogo link. Jupiter launches March 30th. Okay, so here's the cover. And there's some interior pages here, but there's no writing. There's the writing. Very nice. Oh, but that's... Is this an anthology? This is very different art from this. And that is very different from the previous two. Jason, I'm very confused. All right, so Jason, I'm kind of confused here. It's not being pitched as an anthology. It's being pitched as basically I'm following the story of a teen, named the teen, trapped in an unhappy home that gains the ability to escape anywhere. Or do they stay to become a hero? So, Jason, you can be a bit more concise. Be a bit more concise with the pitch here. And this goes beyond naming the name of the main character. But just the sentence structure is confusing. So if I read it again, a teen trapped in an unhappy home gains the ability to escape anywhere or stay to become a hero. That's a very odd way to phrase that. I strongly recommend revising that. Only because you're basically saying that they're in an unhappy home and for whatever reason, they gain the ability to leave and go anywhere they want. Or they can stay in the unhappy home to become a hero. But what are they what are they being up against that would make them a hero? Because just staying in the unhappy home wouldn't make them a hero. I think like most people would kind of sympathize with if they wanted to leave. So what is happening here on the planet or in the home or in the family or the whatever in this teen's life, in this person's life, that they gain this ability and they essentially could leave, take off, and let whatever is about to happen that's horrible, let it happen, and they'll be safe and far away. Or they could stay and essentially fight it and be a hero. Does their ability to leave and go anywhere they want, I'm guessing there's like a teleportation portal sort of thing, does this give them the ability to do heroic things? So there's a lot of questions here. Jason, I really recommend revising the pitch. It's right now it's very confusing. For me, it's very confusing. I would say this is a 5 out of 10. A 5 out of 10. And it's a very kind 5 out of 10 right now. Especially because I'm very confused by the images being supplied here. Because these two seem similar. like it's the same book. And then this one, I don't know what book this is from. And then this one, I really don't know what book this is from. I'm very confused with all the images here, the way the sentence is structured on the pitch. So Jason, I really recommend revise that. Ape with Anxiety. Ape with Anxiety says, I have 2 comics up right now. Giant, and he's got it like it's an acronym. It's his GI Ant. And Night Twink. You can find them at comicbug.uk. So here's GI Ant, which that's solid name. This is a really bad pitch, but solid name. Night Twink. Is this like a commentary on Nightwing? Oh boy. I can't. Is this serious? I can't even tell. Is this a serious pitch? This is a bad pitch. This is a bad pitch. I'm thinking this is such a bad pitch. I'm thinking this is a troll of a pitch. You gotta be trolling. This has to be a troll. Alright. I'm not even gonna grade this. I can't take this serious. So Ape with Anxiety, with your goodness gracious. Best of luck. Not for me. It's not my cup of tea. Sci-fi Comic Artist puts a sci-fi adventure. I wonder what kind of story they make. A sci-fi adventure set during a war. People don't even like giving their names when they're creators. I keep on interrupting myself. Never mind not naming their characters. They don't like naming themselves. A sci-fi adventure set during a war between humans and a race of female-dominated immortal reptilians. It has martial arts, space battles, a telepathic mystic, a silver cybernetic seductress, a robot drag queen, and a psychic mind demon. And there is the link. And here are some images. Infinity Dragonfly is the name of this right here. All right. That pitch is all over the place. Sci-fi Comic Artist, that pitch is all over the place. I barely have an idea of what the story is like. In order to describe the story, you have to do more than, and I've noticed this on a bunch of pitches tonight. I've noticed this on a bunch of pitches over the past 17 years as a publisher, seeing submissions. People throw together words and go, that's the story. You're a writer. And if you're a writer, and the best you can do to describe what it is you're talking about is to throw together the genres and a series of events and some of what the characters are like. That is not a story. That is not a pitch. That isn't a premise. That's not a setup. Come on, man. Come on, Sci-Fi Comic Artist. Disappointing. I'm gonna give this a 4 out of 10. It's very nice. Very nice 4 out of 10. Don't do this, ladies and gentlemen that are creators. You know, it's got this and that and the other thing, and you know, you're not describing a pizza. You know, you're not describing like it's got sausages and peppers and meatballs and pepperoni. You know, it's good. You're describing a story. The characters and the events aren't toppings on your story. Okay. Tigresian Comics says SP. Is that? I can't even tell. SP Spade? Is that what that is? It might just be my computer going weird. I guess it's Spade. It must be an emoji. Spade is a story about an assassin that loses her memory after a botched mission and must team with a detective to discover the truth of her past, while also trying to bring down an evil corporate entity known as Evotech. And there's a Kickstarter link right there. And here's some images. And when you send in images, guys and gals, pick some good ones. Pick some impactful images or give sequential pages with story. That's all I'm going to say about that. Now, Tigresian. So when you write out the title here, just don't bother putting the emoji or something. You want to make sure it's also easily read, easily searchable. Spade is a story about an assassin. Again, there's no mention of a name, that loses her memory after a botched mission and must team with a detective to discover the truth of her past. I feel like a lot of people are learning their pitches from Hollywood. I had a talk about this last week, and this is what I'm talking about. This is very symptomatic of what goes on in Hollywood, in a world where a man does a thing and there's a woman too. It's that level of, okay, but you don't have that star power that's pushing it, right? So if you have a well-known character already, you can kind of play a little more coy with some of these elements. But when you don't, you do have to make sure you're getting people familiar with the names. So just something to think about. Tigresian, I'm going to give this a 4 out of 10 here. A 4 out of 10. Dylan Jacobson says, 4 plainclothes superheroes are forced to overcome their differences in order to thwart their enemies and learn that doing the right thing isn't always the easiest. I'm sure by now everybody in the chat, you guys can guess already how I'm going to critique it, what I'm going to say. So, yes, all those things that you're thinking at home, yes. Okay, Champions is 87% funded. And there is the link for Kickstarter. I don't know why. I don't know why people don't like mentioning the names of their characters. Dylan. All right, so Champions here. It's a complete series omnibus. And 4 plainclothes superheroes. You ever notice how modern superheroes, there's nowadays almost nothing super about them and hardly anything heroic? You ever notice that airplanes give you a bag of peanuts and meanwhile everyone's allergic on the plane? That's how I feel. I feel like that dude from 60 Minutes at this point. Because these make me feel so old. 4 plainclothes superheroes. Okay, whatever. It's not my place to judge and critique on that level. Even though I'm like, character design, that means right out the window. Penelope McQueen, wow, thank you for the super chat. It says, as entertaining as this stream is, I can't imagine what it must be like for your private submissions when your public pitch ideas are of this quality. God bless you, Peter. I gotta tell you, that's the reason why pitches have been, I talked about this last episode, that's the number one reason why pitches have been now reduced submissions from 24/7 365 being open. We had that all 17 years of Alterna up until this year. Now, they're just going to be open April and September because I'm getting so many people that are rushing to send submissions in. I'm getting so many people that are just like willy-nilly just sending whatever they want in. I look at it and I go, I got to look through this 100-something submissions every single month and write back to people even if it's a relatively simple, sorry, this isn't a good fit, or you got to work more on your craft, whatever it may be. I'm finding that it'll even be the same repeat people with the same problems over and over again. And just to highlight your, I appreciate it. But it used to be completely all the time. Submissions were open 24/7, 365. It's I don't know what's going on. The only thing I could think is that it's symptomatic of everything, because entertainment industries and all these other kinds of things, it's a top-down industry. So they see what's up there at the top. They see what is quote-unquote successful, or at least what's around, and they emulate. Because a lot of these people aren't seasoned creators. They're relatively new to all of it, and they're emulating all these things they see, whether it's the story, whether it's the pitch, whether it's even the way in which to pitch it. I can't tell you how many submissions I got last year even that were talking about like the characters, this cisgender, whatever, XYZ, LGBTQ hero. Yeah. And I'm like, that you can have that as a part of the character, but why are you leading with that? Why are you leading with that? If the character, it's about what the characters do. What are they doing? What are these individuals doing? That's what the story is. Now, if it's intrinsically a part of the story, is the sexuality, the race, etc., and the story has to do with those things, then I understand if you're going to pitch it that way. But when it becomes, it's a superhero, or it's like a horror story, or it's whatever, and that has like nothing to do with it, you could tell me that they're a magical elf. They're a magical elf. Well, if they don't do magical elf things, I don't really care if they're a magical elf. That's not really pertinent to the story. So it's strange, but why are they doing that? They see what people are doing. They see what the companies out there are asking for and what they're doing. And they're emulating it. I don't even know if I graded the Dylan pitch here. Dylan, congrats on the 87% funded. Hopefully it's more funded than that at this point. But the pitch, it needs some work. It needs some work. It's unbelievably generic. It's essentially, what you're telling me here is it's 4 people. And I mean, overcome their differences in order to thwart enemies and learn that doing the right thing isn't always easy. I mean, that's called life. That's called life. It used to be understood. If you had 4 individuals, chances are they're not all the same. So they're all going to be different. They're all going to do things differently, think differently, etc. That shouldn't be necessarily like the premise. Like the premise of X-Men isn't like it's a bunch of different people that are fighting evil, and that's it. Like they like, I mean, in terms of like their different personalities. It's kind of like different personalities understood. I don't know. But yeah. I like to see it a little bit more, punched up, a little bit more about what the story is actually about. Okay, Josh, the Irish animator. So he leads with the link on Indie Planet here. It says Juan is a superhero fanboy and VidTuber on the subject when he accidentally dead names his favorite heroine on his show. Not knowing she's been replaced by a doppelganger, he gets canceled and sets out to uncover what happened to Badger Babe. Okay, so here is a couple of things here. This is Juan Pool, Journey of the Juan. Indiegogo exclusive cover here. Is another this cover for issue 2. And here's some interior pages. All right, so good stuff with the interior pages and the writing. I like seeing writing, finished interior pages. I'd rather see one finished interior page, like on all these kinds of campaigns, pitches, whatever it may be. I'd rather see one finished page than 10 unfinished pages, to be perfectly honest. I want to know how are you writing it? What are the characters like? And I don't mean like one balloon, like this kind of thing. You get enough conversation going on here to understand what the lettering is going to look like and whatever, and what the writing will be like. It's a pretty solid pitch. He's letting me know the name of the character, letting me know what they did, what they were about, what they're going to do, who they're up against, who they're looking for. And then, I wish he would have named off the bat. I know he's got the cover image there. It says the name of the story, but I wish he named off the bat what the title was. But other than that, it's a pretty solid pitch. So I would say this is probably closer to like a 7.5, possibly an 8 out of 10 for the pitch. So good job, Josh. Dark Gift Comics here says Lightbringer Genesis Volume 2. The follow-up sees Carter still battling the evil, corrupt corporation Valkyrie Mart. Well, like Kmart, Valkyrie Mart. This time we get to see the tried darkness behind the. This time we get to see the darkness behind the evil box store, and truly test Carter's fledgling abilities. And he's got the link there. It's an Indiegogo. All right, so Dark Gift, slow down a little bit. Slow down. Take a look at the tweet. I know the typos. I get it. They happen. But slow down a little bit. So you got an interior page here. Is this a black and white book, or is this a colored book? All right, I'm guessing it's a black and white book based on, these might be unfinished, but that's all I have to go on. Lightbringer Volume 2, and then here's Genesis. So I'm guessing these are both Volume 2 Genesis. Okay, so I'm guessing these are just two different covers. So it's a little vague. It's a little vague on the pitch. So I like the fact you named it right off the bat. Lightbringer Genesis Volume 2. And you got the name of the character there, Carter. He's still battling the evil, corrupt corporation, Valkyrie Mart. That's a little bit. It's just in the name. It's kind of awkward. But that's just my personal opinion. This time we get to see the darkness behind the evil store and truly test Carter's fledgling abilities. So, okay. All right. So it's relatively concise. The typo there makes it kind of confusing to read the first time around, but I would have liked to see a page that looked finished. I can't make heads or tails of whether or not it's finished or these are work in progress, but I guess this is a 6 out of 10. 6 out of 10 on the pitch. Let's see. Julius says, Julius Freeman writes, says Angela Peretz. Why? I wonder why, Julius, you didn't just go with like Angela Perez. I always wondered that about characters. See? Look at that. When they put the character name, it's like, oh, look at that. Pete's looking at the character name and picking it apart. But, something that rolls off the tongue a little easier. All right. So there's Julius. He says there is a reason. Okay. All right. So Angela Peretz, and I guess that's how I'm pronouncing it, says I think that's right, after being kidnapped by human traffickers, wakes up inside a container ship heading straight to the Atlantic, and now must fight her way to freedom using vigilant fury. All right. Let's see. Got the link in there too. This is Indiegogo. And he's got a little video there with Anthony Gambino's artwork, it looks like, because he's got his little follow-up right there and the tweet as well. All right. So I like the fact that you name the character right off the bat. That's good. And what happens, the premise, you set that up. It's a little confusing. I know that the title is Vigilant Fury, but it's a little, for me, it's a little confusing seeing the now must fight her way to freedom using Vigilant Fury. You know what I mean? Like, that's a little bit, I get what you're doing. But at the same time, it's like, I get it, though. I get it. You're being a little more poetic about it. So with this, it's like I said, it's a solid pitch. I mean, you got the name of the character, you got the premise. I'm seeing what they're doing with the stakes that she's up against, and it's a decent setup, you know. So I would give it. Let's see. Julia says, "Don't be afraid. Tell it like it is." Yeah, I would honestly lead with the title. You know, she must fight her way to freedom in Vigilant Fury, because it does get confusing. It gets confusing because it's kind of like, all right, and then especially Fury's capitalized, but like Vigilant, only the V's capitalized. Like, I look at all this stuff and it's all part of the pitch. As far as the written pitch goes, it's all part of the pitch. So it makes me think, like, what's what, you know? Because, like, it's understood. Now she must fight her way to freedom. Now, if there's something about this character, I'm guessing there's something about this character that enables her to do this. That is not a normal person thing to do. So she must have some kind of background where she knows how to fight. Now, did she have any formal training? Is she ex-military? Was she some kind of, you know, fighter? Whatever it may be. You know, so I know that might be like a plot reveal or something to you. But if you were to say, I don't know, let's say, you know, ex-MMA fighter Angela Peretz gets kidnapped by human traffickers, it makes her character so much more interesting. I know you might be thinking, you know, or ex-military, you know, whatever, ex-Navy SEAL, whatever it may be, anything, the ex-Army, whatever that would give her some kind of added, you know, this is who she is. It makes her character more interesting. I know you might think that that's a thing you want to hide from the reader. You want to, you know, play coy about, and that they'll discover it or whatever it is. Kind of like that movie, what is it, You're Next. Josh says, now I'm really curious about what the issue with Micah Myers is. Micah Myers is a piece of shit. I'll say that flat out. Oh my God, piece of shit. Back in 2018, he lied through his teeth. He was using blockchains. And I said, look, we'll take you off of the promotion for Feast or Famine. We won't tag you in it. I was like, but I don't want people using blockchains, block lists at Alterna, and blocking indiscriminately. Look up Micah Myers. You'll find more than enough information. And he led a massive amount of people to dogpile the hell out of me. Got Alterna blacklisted at a bunch of shops. Got a bunch of creators to completely turn on me. Dude is a horrible dude. Horrible dude. Lot of crap about Micah Myers. And he's done it to a bunch of other people too. I tell you right now, he hates every one of you guys in the chat. Piece of shit. Anyway, that's why I didn't really want to get into Micah Myers. He's a chump. Julius Freeman, seriously, pretty solid pitch. Very, very little that I think you need to really tweak. But yeah, you could really punch it up. I think it could be an even better pitch than it already is. A solid 7. I think it could easily be an 8, maybe even a 9 in terms of the pitch. So, good job. Sinopa Publishing. Let's see here. Crowdfunding. He's got the link right there. It says Reign of Ages, issues 1 to 3. A fantasy comic book series featuring badass ladies swinging swords, slinging spells, and slaying monsters. Rain awakens to a new world where and this looks like it might be one of the last ones. Oh, no, it's not. Good grief. All right. I'm going through all of them. I'm staying the whole time. I'm going to get through all of them. Okay, so I'll do this again. Reign of Ages, issues 1 to 3, a fantasy comic book series featuring badass ladies swinging swords, slinging spells, and slaying monsters. Rain awakens to a new world where the empire she once served is now little more than ruins and legends. All right, so here is the art. Looks to be like an elf kind of lady. Is a fantasy book, like it says. So there's some pages and whatnot. Would have been nice to see some finished pages with the lettering. So this is issues 1 to 3. And it mentions the name of the book. Mentions the character name. It's a little... I would say it's a little bit... Here's, things that are happening. It leads with that in a way that I don't think it should lead with it. Put it instead, Rain awakens to a new world where the empire, lead with that. She once served is now little more than ruins and legends. Don't be as coy. Don't be as coy. There's a lot of coyness in a lot of the pitches. And what I mean by that is a lot of very generic terms, and cliched phrases and things like that, awakens in a new world where the empire she once served is now little more than ruins and legends. And it's kind of like, okay, there's a second part to that though, right? There's got to be a second part where now what's the new threat? What is the new situation she finds herself in other than awakening to this new world? So that's what happens when you start relying on cliched phrases to do the pitching for you, right? All of a sudden, you forget to actually pitch the story. And I find this happens again and again with a lot of creators. So you can really build upon that, completely take that first part out with the, it's a fantasy comic book series featuring badass ladies swinging swords, slinging spells, and slaying monsters. Describe in the second part what she's doing. And you can mention all that kind of stuff, but in a way that describes still the story without being kind of cute about it. So relatively solid pitch. I say it's like a 6.5. 6.5 about, yeah, badass, yeah, I know, stuff like that. Stuff like that I leave up to the reader to decide how awesome it is, how badass it is, how cool it is, how revolutionary, all these kinds of things, these kinds of adjectives that a lot of pitches, a lot of descriptions have, where they're kind of, telling you how it is. Just describe the story and leave it open to interpretation with that. I know, again, people are trying to punch things up, but you punch things up by using the language effectively in your description, as opposed to just going for the low-hanging fruit in terms of just saying, this is so super cool and epic. And, that's like a radical, bodacious, gnarly, bossa nova, Chevy Nova. Okay, so Sinopa, yeah, 6.5, 6 out of 10, around there. I'm really juggling between which one to go with. Daniel Parker says Guardian Angel Part 1. Psychics Henry Hatcher and Jessica Sawyer team up in a fight for survival 100 years in the future. And puts a link. Okay. You guys have spent about almost a little over 2 hours with me. You probably know what I'm going to say right now. All right, so I don't think these are pages. I think these might be panels. It's very difficult to say. I like the fact that he mentions the title, though I'm kind of unsure, because it's like Guardian / Angel Part 1. Is this like issue, is this like number 1? Part 1 of what? It's like part 1 of 4, part 1 of 5, I don't know what it is. Part 1 of 2. And I like that he mentions the names. Psychics Henry Hatcher and Jessica Sawyer. Good, you got that one. They team up in a fight for survival 100 years in the future. Now, again, it feels like, where's that second and third sentence? This needs a little bit more. This needs a little bit more. It's a good start to the pitch, but describe the conflict. Because the conflict is not they're fighting for survival. Aren't we all? All right. So you gave me the who, you gave me some of the what, you gave me the when. But you got the skeleton, you know, put some meat on those bones. So Daniel Parker, I'd say, is a 6 out of 10. 6 out of 10. Dark Gift is back again. And what's up, Jimmy? Thank you for joining tonight. And yeah, Lady, yeah, who were they fighting? Lady Alley, yeah, who were they fighting and why? Yeah, it's as simple as that, you know. What's going on? You know, you got these two characters. What are they doing? Yeah, I get it. They're fighting for survival. What are they surviving against? Who's after them? And why? These kind of things turn it from, do I click on that link? Do I get that book? Do I'm looking for more? Or do I just pass it up? You know? Dark Gift, Pariah, Blood and Mud. Working at a mob-owned bar, Elizabeth Payne witnesses a murder. She is hunted down and left for dead. Don't do the... I know you're probably pressed for... Although you've got Twitter Blue. Don't do the ampersand when it's not a combined. Like, you could do it for Blood and Mud if it was actually a combined thing, you know, like a team or something. Ampersands mean something specific. And left for dead. It's not just and, like shorthand for and. They didn't know Elizabeth is a witch of horrifying power. Revenge. The sweetest morsel to the mouth that ever was cooked in hell. All right, so I appreciate the poetic use here. But that came out of nowhere. That came out of nowhere. All right, so here we got Pariah, Blood and Mud. Oh, come on here. Come on. You got to watch out. That character is dead on. Dead on for not your character. You got to watch out. Watch out for that. All you got to do is just a couple different things here to the way you draw the character or the way the character is going to be on. Okay. Okay, Pariah, Blood and Mud. See, look, they got the ampersand there. You know, put that there in the title. All right, Dark Gift. It's not necessarily a bad premise or setup or pitch, right? But well, not necessarily Hulk Swamp Thing. This is very, very close to Man Thing. Very close, and not that character. But you know, so you got to be really careful with that. Very, very, very close. It's literally, it just looks like Swamp Thing mixed with Man Thing. Doesn't take a lot. You just got to make a couple different changes. And Logan says they're both ripoffs of the Heap. So now with this, Elizabeth Payne witnesses a murder. I like the fact that he's got the name in there. That's good. He's got the title. That's good. He's good with laying out, you know, at least like what is what with these pitches. Dark Gift. This is the second one I've seen here. She's hunted down and left for dead. They didn't know Elizabeth is a witch of horrifying power. Now, this part here, it just seems to come out of nowhere. Revenge, the sweetest morsel to the mouth that ever was cooked in hell. it really comes out of nowhere. So I don't know if it's necessarily needed. It kind of it loses a bit of the punch of this kind of twist here in the description that Elizabeth is a witch of horrifying power, by then adding that at the end. I don't think you need that. But it's a pretty solid pitch for the most part. I'd say 7 out of 10. 7 out of 10. All right. So here is Matt S. Law. He goes, mine is not a proper comic book, but a compilation of comic strips in paperback format. Also, the proceeds go towards feeding the poor and hungry. Me, I'm talking about me. All right. Matt S. Law. Okay. Matt, you could have just described your thing here. You could have described just the story, the book, the strips, whatever. What is Java Jaguar about? And then he goes, oh, also, my story pitch is the first image. That's my business card. He says, based on the true story of a talking jaguar cub found in a local coffee shop. Okay. All right. So I can't even really judge it. It's not a pitch. I'm just gonna move on. Tanya Roberts says, hey there, thanks for the platform. We currently have 3 IPs that are available right now, and we're printing new issues to add to them as we speak. They're all heavily character-based with parent... Why is no one pitching? This isn't a pitch either, Tanya Roberts. Acme Comic-Con Glasgow. This isn't a pitch either. So you got your 4 images here. That's nice. But this is just like, hey, thanks for looking at this thing. And then we have currently 3 IPs. If I'm going to be a customer here, am I purchasing IPs? Am I purchasing comics or graphic novels or whatever it is? See, this is more the style of a pitch to either a publisher or a distributor in the way that this is being addressed. I don't know if Tanya's going to watch this or not. But don't pitch this way to a potential customer. I was going to say I'm going to buy one of these tonight. But I was like, I'm not going to say that because God forbid I can't find anything I'm going to end up buying. I didn't want to say anything like that. So I didn't want people to do that. And I knew people were then going to start, it was going to get really weird and ridiculous. I may buy one of these. I may not. But stuff like this, I appreciate your being polite, Tanya, if you're out there, if you see this or whatever it may be. But pitch the story. You didn't pitch the story at all. Yeah, I can't really say much more than that. I can't even. It's incomplete. Let's see. So Ken Holtzhauser says it's the story of a father who discovers that his son is a superhero and finagles his way into becoming his sidekick. It's an all-ages comic about family and dad jokes, available in print and digital from indieplanet.com. All right, so here is the images here. Oh, that's a big difference in the art from cover 21, and there's 27. Yeah, they're both Batman homages. When you're gonna do an homage cover too, make sure you're giving credit, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see. Your bookshelf wants adventure. This is like a little ad, essentially. And this is number 29. All right. The art is all over the place. Okay, so Ken, it's the story of a father. The Quick and the Dad. Not It's. Not it is the story of a, give me the title. So it's just the same stuff. It's a title, it's a character name, etc. for your pitches. The rest of the pitch isn't really that bad. I would just like to know what it is that they're actually, they're doing. They got to be doing more than just making like there's dad jokes and stuff. You got to have some villains. There's got to be some conflict, right? There's got to be some. If you're gonna have a superhero, there's got to be some. There's got to be, even if they're over the top kind of zany supervillains or something. So Ken, I'd give this, honestly, it overall it needs a lot of work with everything. It's very confusing too with the images. I would say it's a 4 out of 10. 4 out of 10 on the pitch. But again, I mean, whatever I'm saying too, don't let this dissuade you guys. If you think it looks great, go check it out. Again, the link is in the description of the show. And you can go to the tweet and see all the different ones and go check them out. If you like them, if they sound interesting to you, back them, spread the word, etc. Ask some questions to the creators. Dan at Vanguard Comic puts, can the Viper team stop a Soviet terrorist attack launched at the heart of LA? Find out in the 60-page comic, Viper Crimson Dawn. See, and he put the colon, like what we were saying, Robert, the Bounty. Don't put a dash, put a colon. An homage to 1980 TV and movies with a synthwave flavor. Get that out of there. You don't need that in the pitch. Available here, and then puts the link. It says, ran an advert for this in an Alterna comic. Well, I thank you for advertising in Alterna, Dan. Appreciate it. But that's not gonna earn you extra bonus points. Viper Crimson Dawn. So there's the cover. And then interior pages with lettering. That's good. And then there's some other stuff as well. Okay. So, again, don't put the question. Tell people what the premise is. So Dan, if you're watching, I don't know if you are, don't do the can they stop, I'm guessing they will in some way. You could put, instead, you could rearrange that. Go, a Soviet terrorist attack has been launched and the Viper team must save LA or whatever, Los Angeles. As far as this goes, like I said, don't put the homage to 1980 TV and movies with a synthwave flavor. I mean, that to me is a little odd because isn't synthwave music? So you don't need that. You don't need that part. That's superfluous. Stick more towards describing the story, and you'll be fine. There's a good kernel of something you can build on with there, but it's got to be more than just team of heroes stops team of bad guys. Find what that is. Find what that kernel of uniqueness is, and mention it. Build, if anything, your pitch around it. There's so many people that are not doing that. There's so many people that are doing the generic thing of like, it's an action thing, it's a horror thing, it's a sci-fi thing, and all the tropes and the cliches and the phrases that go with it, and then that's the pitch. Your story has something unique about it. It does. I don't know what it may be, and this isn't just directed to Dan, this is directed to every creator. It's got something unique about it. Build around what makes it unique. Because if you're saying that it isn't unique at all, and it's completely 100% derivative, and it's just like every other thing, I really have to question why you made the story then, and then I also have to question why you think people should want to purchase it and read it, spend time with it. So obviously there's something that's got to be there. Something, and I know it's not every story is going to be like this. There are some things that are completely derivative. But whatever it is, that's unique. Really just harp on that. Okay, so the pitch here, I'd say I'd say it's like a 5 out of 10. And I do thank you, Dan, for advertising with Alterno. Obviously, the pitch is taking everything into account here, but it does need some work. It needs some work. Don't be... And I said it before, I feel like there's some people that are kind of, they're embarrassed about character names. I feel like there's some people that are also kind of embarrassed about, or too coy about, where their story is going, or what their story really is like. So, embrace it. Lean into it. That's the thing that's going to make you stand out. That's what's going to get people interested. Martin Simpson says, a Viking king who has lost everything, a devious plot hatched by the trickster god Loki, and a quest to defeat death itself. If you seek this, head north. Nord is a visual tour de force that will take you on an epic journey through myth and fantasy. Again, let me determine if it's a visual tour de force. Thank you very much. As the customer, potential customer, whatever it may be. Companies do this all the time. That's what I'm saying. It's symptomatic of the entire industry with this, that it's just like, it's a lot of these big, blusterous phrases, and people think like, that's colorful. That's what pops, the whole thing. But it's, when everyone starts saying it, because see, 50, 60 years ago, when they were saying it with certain books, it did stand out to say, these things in bombastic ways. But after 60 years and thousands upon thousands upon thousands of books later, it's the book of the century. It's the greatest comic you'll ever read. It's the crossover to end all crossovers. It starts to become kind of like, look, if you're bullshitting me right from the start, I don't really know if I want to take this journey. So on the pitch here, again, mention the name, a Viking king. Viking king, Odin's son or whatever, has lost everything. And a devious plot has been hatched by the trickster god Loki. To do what? But it doesn't mention that. It mentions instead, and a quest to defeat death itself. Which is always odd. It's always odd to me when people want to defeat death itself in stories. I don't see how that's going to happen. But anyway, it's not for me to judge with where the story's going. So I see this and I think, okay. It starts off semi-interesting. Could be a little bit more concise. But the plot then is hatched by Loki to do what? Now, what's Loki doing? I don't know. He doesn't mention it. And there's a quest to defeat death. I'm kind of confused. And then if you seek this, head north. Now I'm really confused. So, Martin, tighten up on that pitch. The art doesn't look bad. The art looks fine. But like storytelling wise, in the pitch, I'm not really getting too much of a sense of what it's about. Other than, I mean, that kind of plot has been done a lot. And I don't necessarily mean like with Vikings or something, but that plot's been done a lot, right? Like, this character, usually a male, has lost everything. Some kind of tragedy has befallen him. His family is destroyed. And someone else is to blame. And he's going to hunt him down. It's straight up like 2,000 different revenge stories is that premise. Again, what is that kernel of uniqueness there? Talk about that. And it's not, I'm telling you, my thing is the Viking angle. It's not the Viking angle. It's something else. Something else about this story has to be unique. And the fact that it's, a trickster god Loki and a quest to defeat death itself. Is this Viking god going to get revenge on death itself? That's a little more interesting. That this Viking god's gonna hunt down death itself. This guy sounds pretty badass if he's gonna go after death and like kick death's ass to get his family back or whatever it is that was taken from him. You know, now you get like a little bit of like a Dante's Inferno thing going on and stuff like that. But at least it sets up some kind of premise that is instantly understandable here in terms of the fantastic nature of it. But here it's kind of like this happens, but that happens, and then all of a sudden that other thing that's going to happen, it starts to get too confusing. So Martin, I'm going to give this pitch a 5 out of 10, and 2 points, honestly, are on the art. But knock off that it's a visual tour de force and it's the greatest thing you ever seen kind of stuff. Okay, leave that up to the customers to decide. Leave that up to I don't like that when people do that. It irks me. It's a Pete peeve if you want to be cute about it. But don't do that. Don't just be, yeah. Unbreakable Argonauts. Okay, the Unbreakable Argonauts. Geez, thank you. $20 dark gift. Jeez Louise. So just got in from work, caught up. Yes was trying to make, let me see here. Hold on. Yes was trying to make it fit in the character limit. The LB pages just need, the Lightbringer pages just need dialogue. The line of the PBM pitch was a quote from Walter Scott. Again, because of the limit. Thanks for the advice. Yeah, and no problem. And yeah, I get that. And it felt like it's a quote from something else. But that's the thing. You know, don't do that kind of stuff because it really feels out of place. You know, if you're going to be very poetic, if you're going to be very intense and really into the writing, I love that kind of stuff. But let it come from you. And let it fit the flow of the pitch. You know, so just keep that in mind. But thank you for the super chat and thank you for being here. Appreciate it. And yeah, Blast Beat, I'm going to get to all these. Everybody took their time to send these in. I don't have too many left. Holy goodness. Maybe got like 10 left. Well, this one didn't follow the directions. I'm not even going to go to that one. So let me see. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Goodness. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. All right. The Unbreakable Argonauts. Penelope McQueen, correct. Yeah, some of them look pretty good, though, as I was flipping through. Or scrolling through, I should say. Unbreakable Argonauts number 1, a post-World War II Golden Age team of pulpy superheroes head out to rescue 2 of their own before a legion of supervillains can resurrect an ancient enemy intent on world domination. And there is the link. All right. So, the name of the team is within the title. So I can forgive if it's not going to necessarily be, you know, this is the team member and that team member and the other team member and giving names. The name of the characters as a team or character, if they're main characters, is good. That suffices. So here's the Unbreakable Argonauts. This is the cover. This is number 1. Here's some interior pages. Again, would be nice to see writing on that. Only because, seriously, as a publisher, I've seen so many pages that, you know, you look at it and you go, oh, that's pretty decent, you know? It's pretty decent. And then you see the lettering and you're like, good Lord. Does your letterer hate you? Because the lettering will ruin the art. I've seen way too many submissions like that. Way too many. So I like seeing the lettering, the writing, that kind of stuff. All right, so he gives you a sense of the name, the who, the what, in terms of what they're doing. Even the when, post-World War II. Golden Age team of pulpy superheroes, you know. That's pretty descriptive in terms of what's what. and they're rescuing two of their own. So two of their own are captured, and they gotta help them out. And why do they gotta do that? Because these supervillains are gonna resurrect an ancient enemy intent on world domination. It's a pretty solid pitch. Pretty solid pitch. If there were lettering, if there was lettering and writing on the pages, I'd give it an 8 out of 10. It's a strong 7 though. A strong 7. It's a good solid pitch. And this is on Indiegogo. Unbreakable Argonauts. Indie writer, comic creator, Brewer Publishing? I guess so. Strange Twisted Tales of Horror. Each issue comes with 2 strangely interesting, dark, and disturbing stories, and strangetwisted.com. Alright. It's not a pitch. It's not a pitch. I'm not getting the story. I don't know what the story is. Yeah, they're horror stories. They're horror stories, okay. You know, so again, like if this was just a tweet that they wanted to make, that's fine. You know, there's no judgment there. But the call to action on this was literally like, pitch me the story, give me 4 pages and a link. You know, this isn't pitching the story. So you have to just kind of shrug at it. But it's strangetwisted.com if you guys want to see more. So the art and everything kind of look like it's a little bit all over the place. It's hard to judge. But, you know, if there was some interior pages or something like that with lettering and writing, it'd be a little bit easier to make heads or tails of it. All right. Path of the Pale Rider. What would you do if your soul did not leave your body upon death? Violence, confusion, forgetfulness set in. People, animals, insects. We are all stuck here. There is no end. Welcome to Path of the Pale Rider, the wildest Western apocalypse you'll read. Man, I feel like you're throwing a lot of stuff at me here. You're throwing a lot of stuff at me here, my friend. Let's see here. Let's see. So Path of the Pale Rider is the title, I'm surmising. That is not the title. That is not the cover image I would have thought that would have been with this story. Western Apocalypse. Here's another issue, or that's another issue, right? There's number 3, and then this is, I guess, number 3. With the trade dress on things, just try to stay consistent. Again, I'm not trying to critique stuff tonight. It's a whole other can of worms to critique all of the images seen here. As far as the pitch goes, it's doing a couple of different things. It's kind of like you guys could break out your bingo cards at this point. You get bingo on a couple different areas because it's leading with a question. It's very vague. I have no idea who this is really about. Is this about the Pale Rider? Is that who this is about? Path of the Pale Rider. It could be abstract and poetic, or it could be literally like we're talking about the Pale Rider. And then it's relatively confusing because it gets kind of oddly poetic and away from what the story's about. People, animals, insects. We are all stuck here. There is no end. It's like, yeah. But where's the story? And it says, welcome to Path of the Pale Rider, the wildest Western apocalypse that I'll read. Again, like I don't really know. I don't know what the story's about, because he goes, well, what would you do if your soul didn't leave your body upon death? Okay, so your soul is trapped to Earth. All right. Your soul's trapped to Earth. Everything dead is trapped to Earth. Okay. Or wherever this is set. But then violence, confusion, and forgetfulness set in because your soul is trapped to Earth, or because you're not allowed to ascend or descend or disappear. And then it's like it's a wild Western apocalypse. I just feel like I'm very confused right now. There's nothing concise about any of that. It's like a string of like a sentence upon a different sentence with no flow into the sentence after. And then this is going to be great. So Path of the Pale Rider, work on that pitch. That's going to be a 4 out of 10. That's going to be a 4 out of 10. Hey, Lady Alley. All right, Lady Alley, a 10 out of 10, right? Let's move on. All right, so here's Lady Alley. Thugs have butchered Eric's sickly wife and 2 children. They've burned down his bakery and left him physically disfigured and insane. He's cooked up some custom-made weapons, a black belt, and martial arts, and is on the hunt for sweet revenge as Egg Beater. All right, so you got a bit of a pun there with martial arts. So here's the Egg Beater cover, I believe. You got an image here, a couple panels. The art's very different. The art is very different from what I was expecting from those 2 images. Is it an anthology or something like that, or is the interiors different than the cover? All right, so you mentioned the name of the character. That's good. So Eric. All right. Again, but look what we were saying, right? So you described the situation, but look what we were saying before when someone's just like, it's generically like someone's family gets murdered. There've been about 10 of those tonight, right? Everyone's family's getting killed off. So here, thugs have butchered Eric's wife and 2 kids. They've burned down his bakery and left him physically disfigured and insane. Right? This is so it's like you get the sense of like what's happened to this guy, what the stakes are like for him, and where things are going in his life right now, which is not so good. He's cooked up some custom-made weapons, a black belt in martial arts, and is on the hunt for sweet revenge. All right, so yeah, it's a revenge story, and you get who he's after and why he's after him, and it's kind of like a reverse slasher in a way, you know, where it's usually this kind of character dude going after like these innocent victims. Instead, it's a revenge story. It's a solid pitch. And then as Egg Beater describes then the name of the character, his transformation of the character from Eric to Egg Beater. You got the title right there, and there's the link for the Indiegogo. My only concern, the written pitch is good. The written pitch is like a solid 8. But I'm confused about the art. So I don't know about the art. She says, let's see, it's a one shot, and it says I had artists who donated artwork. Okay, all right, so then I get it. All right. If there's a way when you do a story like this, whether it's an anthology or it's something along the lines of, you know, it features the art of a lot of different artists, add that in there. Add that in that, you know, 12 artists help bring this story to life, you know. If I understand too, Twitter's limited, so it's one of those things where the same thing with Dark Gift, how he was having a limit on his characters as well for writing the text. But if you guys can, you know, mention that sort of stuff, whether it's an anthology, whether there's different artists involved, whether it's a hodgepodge of whoever, all that kind of stuff. So let's see, black and white interiors, and those 3 heads are the interiors. But yeah, this, to me, it accomplishes at least what a pitch is supposed to do, which is it's going to make you want to see more. So all these pitches tonight, some of the 6s, but everything 7 and above tonight is one of those ones that, yeah, I'd click on that link and I would want to see more. And I think most people would too. The 6s, it kind of is like, it really depends what that art looked like or how that premise sounded. Anything 5 and below is really, I don't know if I'm going to want to see more of that. So just to give you guys an idea of where my mind is at when I'm grading these 2. So yeah, Lady Alley, it's a solid 8 for the pitch. Very good. And I would just like to see more of what I've mentioned before, with just the interior stuff and get an idea of the writing and whatnot. But that is it's a pet peeve of mine. I love to see the writing on these interior pages, at least just one page. Happy Harry. This is the Cryptidnals. Cryptids versus creepypastas. Monsters battle tulpas to the death for the fate of this reality, and has a link here to previewsworld.com. So I'm guessing the book is now available through Diamond's Previews catalog, and he's got a bunch of interior pages here. I'm always curious as to why people don't lead with like the cover, and then like when they have a book like this, and then just the 3 interior pages. You know, that's something that's curious to me. Almost like simulate like if they saw the book on a shelf, you know, the cover, and then unless you have multiple books to pitch, and then they're all covers or whatever it may be, and things like that. Anyway, that's just me thinking out loud. Cryptidnals, cryptids versus creepypastas. Monsters battle tulpas to the death for the fate of this reality. So, you know, you get a sense of what the story's about and the premise, and then everything else. There's some more room, though, that you could definitely use here, Harry, with writing a little bit more about what the story's about. This kind of is like, I get it, you know, you're being brief here, but at the same time, it kind of feels like you're just stopping by. You know, spend some time to let me know what your story's about. Let the potential customers know more of what your story's going to be about. Don't be so quick to leave. So, you know, like this too, it's cryptids versus creepypastas and things like that. Give me a little bit more. Give me a little bit more, you know. And I'm trying to go into this like I don't know anything about these books. Like I said, some of them, this is one of them I do know more about. But Harry, I would say this is a 6 out of 10. I'm interested just because of the subject matter interests me. But if I wasn't really that interested in the subject matter, and I'm just getting the pitch and I'm just viewing it completely objectively, I would say I really need some more to kind of be interested. Because it just sounds like monsters fighting. You know, like what's the hook? A little bit more. Poom Spack says 3 friends just want to make music and have fun. Why would bad guys have a problem with that? And there's the Indiegogo link. Okay, so I'm guessing, so these are the interior pages, and then that's not a cover. I'm guessing that's just like a promo image. And same with this one. Again, like I've said with a lot of other things before, the title, first and foremost, the title. Always the title. That's one thing that Dark Gift, you did exceptionally well with that, and a couple others as well. You guys put that title first and foremost. Boom, right there. You know, this is what that is, the title. It was like, you know, you're just telling me right off the bat, this is the book. So there's no title here. I'm guessing it's Unemployed Monsters, but it says Unemployed Monsters Presents. So again, I don't know. And is it Gleemo? Is that the title? That's the opening. That's the opening page. It's confusing. So yeah, I would say, you know, make sure you're naming the title. If you don't want to name the names of the friends, all right. But what's their band name? Is it Gleemo? You know? And then why would bad guys have a problem with that? I don't know. Why would bad guys have a problem with that? Instead of saying, why would bad guys have a problem with that? Explain why the bad guys are out for them. You know? Why are the bad guys out for them? So you could say there's a rival band, or I'm making this up. I don't know what it is. And you don't want to have people do that. You don't have people start making it up. Is it a rival band? Is it a corporation? Is it the record company? Is it just like some crazy bad guys from outer space? I have no idea. Is it their parents? They hate their music? I don't know. Who's the bad guy? I don't know. Be more concise. But yeah, I'd give this would be a 5 out of 10. You need a lot more here. All right. Sim Inkslayer says, follow the adventures of Nat the Merc, an intergalactic man of action for hire, and his rebel friends, including babes like Loani and Rose. This 116-page anthology series collects 4 brand new stories, 4 books in one. So there's the Indiegogo link. And then here are interiors. What would be nice if it was lettered. So you get the sense here, it's not the Merc. I don't know what the title is, though. You're following the adventures of Nat the Merc. Is that the title? Is that the character alone? An intergalactic man of action for hire. So, I mean, he's a Merc, So I would surmise he's being paid. And his rebel friends, including babes like Loani and Rose. Again, though, that doesn't... You're not explaining the story. Pitch the story. You gave me The Who. You literally, and I don't mean the band. You gave me The Who, but I really don't have the what. I know it's like, it's in the name with the Merc, It's a Merc, I get it. So it's going to be some dude that's hired. But I'm not getting anything else. What are they up against? What are they doing? Did they get hired to go somewhere? Is there some kind of mission they're on? I know it's an anthology. It's an anthology series. They go on various missions for whatever alien races. Give me something else. Yeah. So I would say this is going to be on the pitch. It's going to be a 5 out of 10. It'd be a 6 if I had a sense of the writing on here. With the interior pages and saw some lettered pages. But it's like here, it's all character. It's all just like, here's the characters. Okay, well, what are the characters doing? Seven Legions. Heiko was an orphan in feudal Japan's chaotic Sengoku era. But his dreams are the only clue to the disappearance of the Seraphim Azrakal, a leader of the galactic peacekeeping force, the Seven Legions. Okay. So there's the link. It's on inkslayerintertainment.com. And here is the art. So here are the 4 pages or 4 images being shared. And there's some writing on this one. But just share the whole page. Boy, oh boy. Okay, so Heiko's an orphan in feudal Japan. So you get that character being mentioned here. Chaotic in Japan's chaotic Sengoku era, but his dreams are the only clue to the disappearance of the Seraphim Azrakal, a leader of the galactic peacekeeping force, the Seven Legions. There's a lot to take in on this. Okay, so you're giving me the main character, but then you're giving me this feudal Japan era, but the future. And then there's this disappearance of a Seraphim and all these other things. Now, I'm going to do the Peter Venkman thing and, be like, pretend I don't know anything about all this, and just explain it to me simply. But when you start getting too into the technical verbiage and lore of your story within the simple pitch. This is like stuff that when they go to the page, you can get deep into it. But there's a way to simplistically describe your stories in a way that makes it easier to understand in terms of the flow of what's occurring. With this, it's like, okay, there's this orphan in feudal Japan, and something's going on in terms of he's having these psychic visions, these dreams where he sees how to save this person. I'm guessing. So Be a little more concise with it. Don't be afraid to use multiple sentences. This is one big sentence. And it'll be easier for your pitches to be received by your readers as well. With this one's it's confusing. Yeah, the lettering is tiny, Brian. I agree. The art's not bad. There's some really nice stuff going on here, but the lettering needs work. Again, I'm not trying to critique stuff tonight, but this is definitely a case of that lettering needs some work. I'd give an overall for this pitch. I give it a 5 out of 10, only because I'm confused, man. I'm confused. You gotta break it down. You gotta break it down in a way. Pick what it is you're talking about and how you're going to talk about it. Because it's a mouthful. It's a word salad. I'll read it again. Heiko was an orphan in feudal Japan's chaotic Sengoku era, but his dreams are the only clue to the disappearance of the Seraphim Azrakal, a leader of the galactic peacekeeping force, the Seven Legions. That's a lot of information to take in on one sentence of a pitch on a story that you're completely not familiar with. Ryan Higgins. Laserbrain Comics. Laserbrain Comics want an ongoing adventure story about a kid saving the world. This comic has 2 of those tales. Heck, even if that's not your jam, you need to check this out because it could be the comic that changes your mind. Issue number 2 drops in May. Okay, so here are the pages, and I actually own this comic. Ryan, you're doing yourself a disservice. Okay, I'm going to tell you why. Okay, and here is he got a Mike Allred cover too. So Ryan, you're really not describing your story for the most part. You're not. You spent a couple sentences here, my friend. And I know Ryan. He's a local creator. He's a good dude. But you spent a couple sentences here, just kind of being bombastic and having just a couple of empty sentiments. You describe your story, So you got Laserbrain Comics. That's the title. It's kind of like an anthology sort of thing. Want an ongoing adventure story about a kid saving the world? Don't pitch it like that. Just describe what's going on with the character, what they're doing. So yeah, you got a couple things here that are just like, it just feels like you're gonna turn the chair around, turn your hat around, and then tell me, hey man, you dig comics? Comics are cool. Kids love comics. And even if you're not a kid, I bet you'd love comics too. It just kind of feels a little odd. Just tell me the story. Just pitch me the story. Be cool with it. Just act like you've been here before. And I know you have. You're a good dude. You're a talented dude. It's an interesting and fun story. It's a great all ages book. But, come up with a way to pitch it. Because this is kind of dancing around what the story's about. And that's a shame. Because you're reducing it to kind of this generic thing. It's an adventure story about a kid saving the world. Unique kernels. We need the unique kernels. That pitch, I'm going to give that pitch a 5 out of 10. And I like this book. But that pitch needs work. That pitch needs work. Ryan, come on, man. You're better than that. You pitched this better to me at the show that I was at when I met you. Give people what this story is about and the character that's in it. Or characters, I should say. Nerium bonds the cursed child. A new wolf coming to Lena's pack, carrying the burden of the moon curse, brings chaos to the south border. Can our young werewolf Lena keep her pack and her younger brother Jesse safe? All right. So you already know how I feel about the questions and pitches. I'm not going to go over that for the 100th time. Other than that, Nerium and many others as well, mention the title of your book. Don't forget that. I know even if you put the cover in there, which Nerium has put this promo art, so you see that the thing is right there. You want to make sure you're still mentioning that title. So a new wolf coming to Lena's pack, carrying the burden of the moon curse, brings chaos to the south border. Right. So maybe like Lena must keep. Turn these into declarative statements. These are, and a lot of people do this. It's just Nerium, but a lot of people do the whole thing where they pose a question, turn the question into a declarative instead. All right. So Lena must keep her younger brother Jesse safe from, and explain what that is. You know, what's the threat? What's the threat, and what must the character do to survive the threat? What's the conflict? How is the character going to resolve that conflict? What's the setup towards it? Whatever that may be. So this is very close. It needs some tweaking. I'd say this is a 6 out of 10, but it needs a couple of things to be tweaked. It's right there, but it's not completely lost. Tony James, Star Noir is live on Indiegogo. A 1940s detective teams up with a gray alien to stop a shapeshifter killing LAPD officers. LA Noir meets the X-Files. Don't do that. And oh boy, I see the one beneath it. Okay, so I'll stick on Tony James right now. Okay, so a 1940s detective teams up with a gray alien. Detective so-and-so. You know, the year is 1940, and Detective John teams up with a gray alien by the name of blah, blah, blah to stop a shapeshifter that's killing LAPD officers. There you go. So, you don't need to put LA Noir meets the X-Files. Don't put anything like that. You don't need that in there, Tony. Star Noir. And here you go. You got a couple of interior pages with writing. That's always good. Norman Rat says Golden Girls meets Ninja Scroll. So Tony, a couple things need tweaking on this. I'm gonna. If it wasn't for the solid display of interior pages, I'd give it a 5 out of 10 on the pitch. I'll give it a 6. The interior pages help it out. Rick Hanna. Shazam meets the Black Panther. Is that like Abbott and Costello meet the Wolfman? It's awfully kind of DC and Marvel, Rick, to allow you to have Shazam meet the Black Panther. I'm not even going to go over this. Don't do pitches like this to anyone, anywhere, ever. Describe your story, but never do anything like this, where it's literally this one thing that already exists meets this other thing that already exists, and then you walk away. You didn't even say a word about what your story's about. George Peter Gatzis puts Immortal Mask, and then he puts the links here. It says a 1970s crime thriller of a retired soldier who interviews a death row inmate. What he learns thrusts him into Atlanta's shadowy underworld, where he will have to use his military training to survive. All right, so here we have a couple images here, a couple interior shots as well. And he's got the title there. It's Immortal Mask. Again, it's fine with being descriptive about who you're talking about, but I do like to see the character names, and I know most people do like to see character names too. So I would say, put that in there. And it's a 1970s crime thriller. I get it. That's not a bad way to pitch it, but you could put, what year specifically it's taking place, or in the 1970s, retired soldier, blah blah blah, the name, interviews a death row inmate, and what he learns thrusts him into Atlanta's shadowy underworld, blah blah blah. So this one, it's not bad. It's pretty solid. I give it a 7 out of 10. honestly. Maybe a 6.5, closer to 6.5. So George says Immortal Mask is the character's name. So I get you with that, but right off the bat though, it's like, I don't know, And again, I know about your comment. I'm trying to go from a mindset of I don't know anything about any of these. So Immortal Mask sounds kind of like an abstract thing. But if it's about the character, the retired soldier, his name's not Immortal Mask, right? So you could say something about this retired soldier and becomes, he must become Immortal Mask to survive, like this. Something along the lines of that. Because otherwise it does seem like, okay, maybe he discovers something like The Mask, that comic and movie. That's his name, but at the same time, it's like, it's not really his name. So you got to kind of describe it in those kinds of terms. At least that's what I'm talking about from my personal perspective when I'm seeing things that speak to me and what I've seen other people comment upon as well. Lunchbox Warren. Let's see. Sig and Joe take on the evil DAB Corporation and corrupt FAP government to save the citizens of the mining moon, the Waste Can. It's Aqua Teen Hunger Force meets Firefly. The Adventures of Sig and Joe, issue 1, now on Global Comics. And honestly, that's what I thought right off the bat. I was like, is that like when Master Shake gets his Tijuana surgery for his face? It's very on the nose. Aqua Teen Hunger Force. I'm not gonna go too deep into this. I've touched upon everything that I could say about this as it is. I'm gonna say that this is a 5 out of 10 for the pitch. If you've been watching for the past 3 hours, this is gonna end very soon because we're getting down to the nitty gritty. You already know everything I'm gonna say about it anyway. Skinny's Comics. Lady Alley, you could quote that. Sure. It is a good pitch. Let's see. Drunk Undead Redneck versus Cults and Monsters. First issue is available on Amazon. Filling. I don't even. Where's the link? Is there no link? Like, seriously? Seriously. All right, there's the link. It's okay. So it took three tweets to get me the link. Come on, Skinny. Come on. You had a lot to work with here. You had a lot to work with. All right. Okay. Aerotech number 2. Live on Kickstarter. I guess this might say right now. Aerotech, like erotic, a slightly not safe for work office comedy about a startup that makes sex robots. All right, that's a pitch of the plot. I'm guessing it's just very plot centric, maybe an anthology of stuff like this. And this is on Kickstarter. This is a very bare bones pitch, but it is what it is. A couple of these I'm just going through them because at this point, this is just Hojo. The Mythicals is a supernatural action mystery that revolves around Nancy Moon as she joins Level M, a covert task force charged with protecting humanity. Mysticism, monsters, and mayhem. What would you do if you found out monsters were real? And puts the Indiegogo there. You don't need the question there. You could make that just a declarative with mysticism, monsters, and mayhem. It's funny though because I wrote mystery, monsters, and mayhem as a pitch, as one of the many different pitches with King Cryptid. I'll take some kudos for that inspiration in a way. The Mythicals is a supernatural action mystery. Okay, so there's Nancy Moon, and she joins Level M, which is a covert task force charged with protecting humanity. All right. From what? What are they up against? Again, let people know what they're up against. It's got some there's Expendables going on here with a little bit of like the Night Stalkers from Marvel back in the 90s. Character designs are just a little too, for me, they're a little too on the nose. But the Mythicals, I mean, the pitch is, it's okay. It's okay. It's just, you need to describe exactly what they're going to necessarily be fighting here. What they're going to be fighting. That's what I'd like to see. Because it's like, yeah, they're a team that does that, and, there's a bunch of books that are like that. With these kind of supernatural teams. And if it revolves around Nancy Moon as she joins Level M, is Level M the Mythicals? So are the Mythicals not? I'm sorry. Maybe it's just late. Okay. So it's to me, it's ladies and gentlemen, find a way to be more consistently concise with the pitches, because I'm thinking the Mythicals are the group, and then it's Level M, a covert task force charged with protecting humanity. But I thought that was the Mythicals. So yeah, it's just protecting humanity from. That makes a big difference. What are they protecting them from? Because if they're just protecting them in general, from what? And if from monsters, from I mean, what kind of creatures are out there? What kind of monsters? What are they doing? What are they fighting? What would you do if you found out monsters were real? You don't need that part. You don't need that part. All right. Let's see. And then Sinopa and then Bayonet. We made it. All right. Because Bayonet, I'm not even going to. This one's. I don't even know. They shouldn't have responded. It's all over the place there. But Hojo, I would say that this needs work. With the pages you showed, I'd say overall it's like a 6. But the pitch itself, the written pitch, is like a 5. Really think about refining some of that, be a little bit more clear. Clarity is king with storytelling, with pitching, with communication, which is all this stuff is communication. So be as clear as you possibly can be. All right, that's it. Again, if you want to see any of these, all the links, all the good stuff. And Brian says, I backed Hojo's book. That pitch is rough. Yeah, it's pitching is tough. Pitching is tough. That's what I'm going to definitely say too as well. It's not something that is as easy as I think a lot of creators end up thinking it is. And the good thing about the written pitch is you can go in there and take a little more time with it and revise and edit and whatever before you put it through and hit that enter button. And then if you do hit it, and you realize, oh, I forgot a link, or oh, I forgot an image, or oh, I forgot to check the spelling, or I put a typo, delete it. I can't tell you. I had like 5 people go, oh, Pete, I forgot the link, or oh, Pete, I forgot. I see that I got a misspelling in there. I'm like, why are you sending me a DM about it? Just delete it. Just delete it and put a new one. Like. Anyway, forgive me. So there's a lot of stuff out there. in terms of the creators, I think you guys can learn about it. Customers, it makes you guys, hopefully, I guess, look for certain things, because the more that you're aware of what to look for, the more you can make an informed purchasing decision on what it is you're going to buy. Again, these are warning signs. If you see a pitch that's all over the place and it's sloppy and it's haphazard and it just doesn't make a lot of sense, chances are that book is going to be that way too. So as a customer, be aware of that, and as a creator, be aware of that, and go into that and refine that, because maybe your book is great, but your pitch needs a lot of work. Take the time to work on that. That's the introduction to you as a storyteller for a lot of people. So if your pitch is kind of all over the place, it's not going to do you any favors. So guys, thank you so much for being with me tonight. It was a long stream, goodness gracious. But we got through all of them. There's like 60 something different projects. I probably made some enemies. I've made a lot of enemies over the years with submission evaluations. 10,000 submissions. I've published probably like about 300 different books, which means 9,700 something submissions were rejected. Some of those people did not take rejection too kindly. And I'm expecting some people tonight won't take the submission, the pitch evaluation too kindly either. But it is what it is. I say it with love, and I say it with the intent of hoping you learn and get better and sell more books and make more books and continue to make comics and have fun making comics, because there's no fun making comics when you're not making any money on it and you're losing money left and right. And it all starts with having a solid premise, pitch, and communication of what your story's about. So hopefully people don't get their egos a little, too bruised, because I want to see everybody succeed. I want to see everyone make the best comics they can possibly make, and continue to do so for as long a time as possible. All right, everybody, take it easy. Have a great night. Thank you for being with me this whole time. And man, oh man, my voice is starting to go. Not used to these 3-hour streams of just me talking. Everyone, take it easy. Thanks again.